All right, episode number 11.
11. Salud.
Salud. Let's get the ching ching. I don't know if we heard that, but whatever.
Well,
ching
it
ching.
was probably a little off. How is it?
Oh, this. It's called brown sugar. Lagunitas. Where did you get this? Is what, California and Chicago?
From Temecula. So it's actually it's the same city where Dan Henderson's from. I wanted to go visit Team Quest when I visited this brewery a couple years
kidding.
ago. Yeah, but like Stacy's like, we're on vacation.
Who's Dan Henderson?
Are you serious?
No.
Oh,
She's
okay.
like Dan Henderson. I know who Dan Henderson is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's like we're in California, like, and doing the whole beer and wine tour of San Francisco and Sonoma Valley and stuff. And she's like, you want to go do jiu-jitsu? I was like, yeah. And that it didn't go over well. So
I like on the label here, it says, cultured brewery yeast is akin to feeding raw shark to your gerbil. It is unlikely to ever occur in nature. And we've got an IBU of 51.1, so it's rather hoppy.
Do you think it's bitter? I think it's, I mean,
there's a bitterness to it. It's actually not, it's I would say it's more bitter than it is hoppy, but
yeah,
it's 10% alcohol, so that's going to, whatever edge I had coming off of training, I said I needed a beer, so I'll take it.
How was your training today, Noah?
It was good. I had a hard time, like, getting my body started. I don't know. But I really liked the passing sequence we did. Mm-hmm. We actually did a sequence. So I'll describe it. We did basically a knee cut pass, but you finish wide. So you give them the opportunity to get their bottom knee in, and then they throw their other leg over in kind of a classic defense. Then you put your head under that and circle to the other side to their back. They'll turtle, and then there's some responses you can do. It's something that's occurred to me a lot in my roles, so I could identify with it. A lot of people, I find, pass my guard in that situation where I go head over the shoulder and then they just pass to my back, and I'm either in side control or I give up my back. So it's nice to practice stuff that's relevant to what I'm doing. I really had a hard time doing the final counter to the counter, which was a cartwheel pass. I just hop over. I don't get the cartwheel. I can't cartwheel right now. I don't know. It's very frustrating.
I think so, but like I had a problem doing it too, right? And I think a big part of it is you have to be willing to like really like put your shoulder and head into your partner and like make them.
I noticed when Paul was doing it on me, it felt like an over/under pass. Kind of. His head was in my hip pocket and his shoulder was right in my sternum. And
like
stuff.
We're being nice to each other, right? So, and it's one of those things like judo, where judo doesn't work if you don't like commit to it. So like when you do like the Tommy, what's Tommy in my nickname now? Is it the
Canadian
the
brothers?
Gillavoo?
I don't know.
So when we do like the Vu Gilligan Vu, like half committed, like I'm only gonna put like 50% of my weight on you, or like use 50% of effort thing, it doesn't work, right? Like you have to go for it.
Well, and I got stopped by Paul when we were doing our stand-up drills because I was trying to do what he was doing to me. So yesterday I trained, and Paul and I were doing grip breaks and entries and stuff, and so basically just on the feet. And he kept doing a judo entry. I guess it's a judo entry.
Like a back step or what?
Yeah, he back step, but he would actually put his arm just right over my shoulder. So in a way, it's not great for jiu-jitsu because if he actually takes me down, he's in a bulldog, and I could take his back conceivably. He doesn't have an underhook. But it's a great way to quickly kind of chuck a guy over you. It's hip toss him. It's a quick hip toss. So I was effing around with that. But I was being nice, and he stopped me. He's like, you actually have to, like, chop the bottom of their legs. Like, you're going wide because you don't want to take them over. But he's like, I used to do that in Muay Thai, and he started kicking me. He's like, I used to, like, hold back. And admittedly, I don't know Muay Thai, so I did. But I got the point that he was doing something to protect his teammates. But in doing so, he did it so much that he developed the habit that actually live, he did the same thing. So then he had to, like, drill it hard, like properly, you know, to undo that habit. So it was a good catch. So yeah, like I told you, what's really exciting is there's a lot of stuff I get to practice and a lot of new techniques I want to do, and there's only so much time in the day to practice it. And when you first do it, you're probably not going to have the most success. So It's kind of
I
little
like
frustrating
sequences
stuff.
like this. So my question to you, and I'll find out later today, is this a part of the curriculum or is this fuck around Saturday? I'll be able to let
it's
you know.
probably fuck around Saturday.
I think
would
so
say.
too. But it's a good sequence. I think it's
a good sequence, and he actually brought that up earlier a few weeks ago. Should we be teaching more sequence-based stuff? So instead of this covered a variety of positions instead of just covering 50-50.
Right.
Like, how do you get out of 50-50 and potential
But do
initial attack?
sequences. So this was the argument I had a little bit with Ryan Martman. Is the idea that if you exclusively train sequences, is that essentially a 2-person kata? But if the 2-person kata is
here's what I found. Here's what I
idea.
found about the sequence. I found that it was encouraging me to do the bad habits I was doing to let my guard get past at that key point. So when I put my head over the shoulder, I was doing it in a way that allowed my partner to pass me, and I realized
right.
And so I think it's actually.
It's a disservice to the uke, sort of.
I actually think conceptually it's good to see, but I actually wouldn't want to rep it a lot because I think it develops a bad habit.
Agreed.
Because I think resistance training is good, and this was not resistance training because resistance training means this would be ugly. So I think in resistance training you could still get this, but you wouldn't get it all the time, and I think that would make the sequence useful.
I think
guys, do the sequence.
Yeah.
But you can break off at any time because if we all know what the end goal is, we can hedge our defense. I'll let you pass the other way, but I'm never going to let you pass the way that the sequence allows you to think. So for me, I noticed, and I actually want to ask Paul this, instead of bringing my leg all the way over and covering his bicep or shoulder, I actually remember something JB said. Take my foot on the other side and jam his shoulder.
Yep, that's
don't drape over because what ends up happening is I'll end up putting my hamstring on their shoulder or bicep, and then they put their head under and they pass.
Exactly.
And they pass. I'm like, this sucks. And what sucks for me is I've been taught, and I believe that if you want to pass, you have to be on your feet. You can't be on your knees. And guys that have done this to me are on their knees, and it frustrates the fuck out of me because I'm like, I'm rewarding.
You're speaking in absolutes, though, right? Like, who said in order to pass you have to be on your feet?
Paul and JB.
I mean, yes, agreed, right? But there are also many systems that are predicated on passing from the knees. So I mean, some people are just good at that too.
In my primitive mind, my black and white mind, I'm kind of like, no, I must be doing something wrong.
No, and that's just it, right? Like
they're shortcutting through here,
and that's where he had mentioned Hoffa Mendez. This is the idea of sort of agility based passing. This is a very not new, but it's sort of revolutionary, if you want to call it that, because traditional Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is all predicated on this very sequential based thing of close guard, open the guard.
Are you talking about pressure passing? Or
just the idea of pressure versus
because I think that's kind of the basis of Gordon Ryan's passing attacking the guard instructional.
Yeah,
is there are 3 forms of passing? There's pressure passing. There's agility passing. And then he actually said float passing he categorizes as his own thing.
So yeah, he said there's
and then a 4th thing would be attacking a leg.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're actually 4 things, and he said people are usually good at one, but not everything, and I want to be good at everything. Blah blah blah. Because I'm Gordon Ryan, and he can't pass Mikey's. Did you see that?
What's that?
So I'm usually not an Instagram guy, and actually, so I gave up my hiatus briefly. And I was on Instagram, and of course I come up on Instagram.
You get a dry spell of looking at hot chicks?
Yeah. Chris, I'm single.
No, that's fine. Hey, we're all guilty. My wife has clearly said I'd be worried if you weren't looking at pictures of hot women. So.
Oh my God. You sound like my dad.
No, I mean, right?
Anyway.
She's like, you're a guy. I'm like, I get it.
So it just so happens that Gordon Ryan right now is at the UFC Performance Institute out in Las Vegas.
Is he really?
Training with other grapplers.
Vinny because they had the quintet.
Yeah. Vinny Magalhaes was there, and he was rolling nogi with Mikey Musinesi.
You said nogi so emphatically. Like,
well,
that's
I don't
does,
see
though.
Mikey. No, I don't see Mikey as a
Oh,
no-gi player.
okay.
I see
I'm like,
Mikey as a
Gordon,
gi
all he
player.
does is
no, that's
no-gi.
all he does. No, I don't see
Okay,
Mikey.
yeah.
And
Mikey's the guy who beat Bruno.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
And at university,
they're like-
everyone loves him.
In like 9 different weight classes. They're like 9 weight classes apart, though, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I mean,
like,
it's ridiculous.
it's like 100-pound difference,
and he couldn't
basically.
pass Mikey's guard, and
Really?
he said it, and he's like, I'm going crazy right now, like I'm fully tilted.
He's like frustrated.
Yeah, like
basically.
I'll figure it out tomorrow. Like I couldn't. But he's like, he's able to. He said his frame is a little unique. He says Mikey's legs are a little long for his body, but he said he's very intelligent.
Have you ever heard?
It keeps the inside position. It's all about that inside position.
It is all about like inside control. Have you heard any of Gordon's breakdowns of his ADCC stuff?
I'm kind of off Gordon a little bit. Like
he's the best no-gi grappler in the world, and you're saying
no. He's very skilled at what he does. I'd rather kind of go to Dan. I mean, he speaks faster than Danaher does.
Yeah,
so he gets
he
to
can
the
go
point.
through half the time.
But you know who he sounds like? Is he sounds just like Gary Tonin, and I think it makes sense because I think he started under Gary.
Yeah, Gary was his original.
If
coach.
you listen to Gary, and I'm sure Gary got it from Danaher, but I think it's Gordon getting it through Gary, who got it through. That's
the thing is, Gary was originally a Tom DeBlas black belt.
Oh, okay.
Which he sounds absolutely nothing like Tom DeBlas.
No, he doesn't like.
But
if you listen to Gary Tonin, like break stuff down, it sounds a lot like Gordon Ryan.
Which it's interesting. I mean, like because Danaher, like I always thought I haven't heard Gary break anything down. So, but I have heard quite a bit of Danaher breaking stuff down. I feel as though the language used, and it would make sense that he's a student now, that Gordon sounds quite a bit like. His syntax sounds
the
a
center
lot
line,
like,
and he uses the Japanese term.
Yeah. Because I mean, like that's what you should do in coaching, right? Because that way your athletes know what you're talking about. But so, anyways, so he couldn't pass Mikey Musemi's guard, huh?
So there you go.
I'd have to watch that. That's on Instagram.
It's not. There's not a video. It's just a post.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it shows that there's something to be said for being having a smaller frame and being able to fit in tighter spaces, I think.
Sure.
And we'll see. I mean, I think it's interesting. It's encouraging for a guy like me who's not Gordon size, because I'm like, ooh, I can frustrate with my physical attributes. I don't have to be all Asai and Jesus the whole time, you know?
What are you trying to say there? do you want like Atos coming after us? Like Jesus, man.
Actually, I really love
Hinger, man.
Well, those guys are great, but I really like Galval's teaching. Like I'll watch a lot of his technique stuff. I think it's really solid. No, I mean I'll get on YouTube and stuff and check out some of his breakdowns. Both gi and no gi. Very relevant, very similar to what Paul teaches.
Yeah.
I'll actually send Paul, more than anything, Galval clips and saying,
Really?
don't you do that? Like, I feel like you do this to me. And he said, yeah, I kind of do this to you. And
Did you see there was one like 3 days ago of this guy in Canada that he's like, oh, my favorite like 50-50 escape. And it was literally the sequence that we've been working for the past like 4 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he's like, it's a little complicated, but it works. And I was like, oh, I know this. He added one little tweak to it, and I'm like, I want to play with it a little bit.
Okay.
But either way, so it's funny though because like how it's like the idea of like Einstein and the other dude. Sorry, other dude. But like how all of these sort of like ideas develop
Tesla?
Independent. Was it Tesla?
Well,
like,
who's the other guy?
I don't know, but no, it was Edison. It was Edison and like this British guy who were both coming up with like very similar ideas about.
Oh, the idea of no, it's Tesla and Edison.
Was it Tesla and Edison?
And yeah, those are the two.
Okay, so they were both coming up with these ideas independent of one another,
Correct.
Right? But like that's cool, right? That means like they're both seeking truth and they're both discovering truth because they're finding it via like independent means. Like that's awesome. Like the fact that like this guy up in Canada, you know, is
or maybe they both saw the same instructional video.
or they well, Paul actually says he doesn't like watching instructionals. He likes watching competition footage.
Okay.
So he and he sort of like reverse engineers stuff and adds his own thing to that, because like that's like combat tested, right? Like instructions are great. I mean, like you can see, and that's actually why I asked you about like, oh, have you seen instructionals other than Danaher? It's like a lot of times they teach in these like sort of perfect sequences that they pertain to that situation only, right? And whether or not you can force that situation well enough, that sequence may not work.
A lot of the Danaher instructionals seem to be in such isolation that you have to actually put some thought into how to adapt them into a live role.
But he gives you so many contingencies.
He does. But I still think it's very in a vacuum. And I think there could be a little bit of, I mean, it depends. I'm thinking of his like gi fundamentals seem very in a vacuum for like
his
pin
gi
escapes.
fundamentals are super. It's funny because like if you look at what his guys do and execute, it's considerably different. I just needed, my arm was feeling numb.
No, I was just checking to see if your phone was near the.
No. I just needed to actually allow some blood flow to my right arm, so I don't go oddly like paralytic again. But his gi fundamentals are super. Like I may or may not have seen the original like Renzo Gracie tapes with like Greg Kukuk, and they're that, right? Like because maybe they are just the absolute fundamentals. And then maybe against like absolute fundamentals against untrained opponents, and then
that could be true.
His systems and the enter the system stuff is sort of jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu versus an untrained person. So.
And then Gary Tonon's all about exiting the system.
Yeah.
So that looks interesting.
We'll have to see that soon.
Yeah, we'll have to check it out. So I told you I had some stuff to share with regard to the podcast. So save it for the podcast. So this week, due to a bunch of bizarre circumstances with personnel and all that, I ended up teaching 3 classes this week.
Did you really? You taught more than than black belt Chris Vu. This is the first time I've actually said that. So I'm admitting to it.
So I taught a gi fundamentals class, and then the following day I taught no gi, followed by gi fundamentals. Gi, in a way, I felt most comfortable in no gi of all things.
Really?
Which is funny. But
because you have good attributes and you can just attribute your way out of shit? Is that why?
No, because I got to show some like basic leg lock entries and attacks.
Calm down there.
And that just, I mean, obviously there's a cool factor for the students, I guess, but there are only 4 people.
Oh, you're doing the cool factor thing. That's the mark of a poor instructor, though, Noah. Come on. We've discussed this.
So let's get to let's shelve that debate for now.
Sorry.
So in no-gi, because this all went down, today's Saturday. This went down Thursday.
Yes,
and it was back to back.
Right. So Wednesday, Thursday?
Wednesday I taught fundamental gi.
Okay.
Then I taught no gi at 7 the following day, along with fundamental gi at 8. And in no gi, I had 4 people. Okay, I had Nikki, Eric, Chico, and
Eric who?
Eric's a white belt who just started. I'd say a month or so ago.
Okay,
So
like
a very a beginner.
Okay, gotcha.
And a trial, and the trial is the case in point here. So, the I thought the class went fine. We covered a lot of stuff. People seemed to be into it, so that was good. And it was nice to have an even number of people. So I had 2 groups of 2 pairs, so it was easy to like go back and forth. But long story short, Nick's working with Eric. They're fine.
That's good. That's a good choice.
And Chico's working with a new guy. Now let's describe new guy.
Fuck my life.
New guy is the second coming of Clint. Huge, jacked, tatted up. Very nice. I mean, he was nice and respectful to me, but we looked like Clint too. Okay. And I love Clint. I'm not using it like me personally. Like
he's using Clint as purely like an archetype.
Yeah, as an archetype. And I actually like Clint's Clint's had some issues at the gym. I won't get into that, but there's no. I love Clint. He's a good guy, and I think he might be in Brazil right now training. I think, for all I know. Anyway,
so much acai.
Point is, it's time to go live. So when we went live, I had them start in kind of a 50-50 leg entanglement position.
Is it possible to ashi each other?
So that's kind of how I had one in, one out. So I basically had people holding on their butts, holding each other's ankles with 1 foot in. So it was like if you wanted to fully scissor and go into 50-50, you could, but you weren't there. You were just, and I said, start from there if you want to go anywhere else.
How did you come up with that? Just out of curiosity.
I've seen that.
Have
I've
you?
seen that taught. Yeah, Paul's taught it. I've seen it taught when I was at a Globetrotter camp.
Okay.
They're these interesting positions. Now, I don't even recall if it was from that or the following thing, because I might have even said guys just start on their back. But we ended up this guy going with Chico, and he's on Chico's back, and he is using every muscle in his body, and he's got kind of a Kimura trap on Chico.
He's on Chico's back.
Yeah, and Chico's just resisting, and now he's trying to rip some sort of arm bar, so he starts jamming his shin into Chico's side, and then I don't know what happened at that point. It looked like the guy's knee kind of like slid along Chico's ribs or something, but Chico was, I have to stop, so he's got a minor bruised rib.
Really? That means Chico. That dude was fucking.
Oh, dude, the guy was strong. So Chico goes off to
not weak either. That's
no,
the thing,
so Chico goes off to the side. Now that guy, I did see. I'm sorry,
And but that's the thing with beginners, right? They just literally don't know.
Well, this is the thing. So there's a larger story. I'm hoping our audience has gone from 2 to 3, and maybe that third person might be identify this at their gym. So what ended up happening was Victor was there assisting, or Victor was there doing more than he was helping everybody. He's like, put me in, coach. So now he goes in.
Rudy did?
And he decides to wrestle this guy. And the first thing this guy does is grab a headlock.
Oh, no.
And does not let go. And I can see.
How big is he? Is he like my size? Is he bigger?
He's Clint's size.
So he's like 200, like 5'9".
No, he's not 5'9". He's like 6'1".
Against Victor?
Yeah.
He's fucking front headlocks Victor?
He squeezes. And Victor's head's turning red. And Victor's.
Please tell me he had the wherewithal to tap.
So no, that's why Victor's shoulders hurt.
Nice.
So Victor got scrunched, and he probably has a minor AC joint sprain.
That's good.
Now Victor.
Good. So we all know about
egos, this is the kicker. Now Victor fought out of that, tapped the guy multiple times.
Nice.
Each time he tapped him, the guy said, "Hang on, I need to take a breather." Which really
he cardio tapped? Fuck that guy.
Which really
is he here today?
Well, he hasn't signed up, and I hope he signs up.
I feel bad if he's here. Because
if he's listening to the podcast.
When do I get to neon belly this guy? Because I don't deal with that, man.
So afterwards, I went with him. And
you went with him?
Yeah, I went with him because there was nobody left.
Oh,
right? I was like, Nick and Eric,
he's climbing the mountain.
So then I went with him, and I started on I butt scooted in. I grabbed his legs, and I just. I leg locked him all the time.
You Mark Pete? Did you fucking?
I did. I only did ankle, Achilles locks, which I showed.
Okay.
And knee bars, which I showed.
Okay. Good.
So all I showed, I only tapped him with the 2 submissions I showed.
Did he stomp the fuck out of your asshole?
No, I kept him on it. Like I was able to keep him on his butt.
Because
he stood up and he's very strong, but then I dropped him down. But I didn't go mano a mano with him.
Okay.
And I even made a joke with him early on. Because I butt scooted in. He's like, "What do you?" I was like, "Dude, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna arm wrestle you, bro. I'm gonna arm wrestle you." So we got these injuries, and now I'm doing gi fundamentals, and I'm watching guys spar. So flash forward to gi fundamentals. So I want to just go back. That trial student, Victor was.
So what is
in the moment? Victor was furious because his head was getting popped off. Like he was just furious, And I felt, and he hurt his shoulder. I'm pissed. Now that guy.
So do you think
seemed a little clueless, but I think he genuinely seemed nice. He didn't seem malicious,
He's just He's like, he just doesn't know his own strength, and he's doing what he knows.
Yeah, and he's also like, he's even telling me, he's like, man, I can tell you're so relaxed, like you're just waiting, because he's cardio tapping because he's tense the whole time.
Oh yeah, which is
okay.
That's
but I'm not focusing on him so much. I'm just focusing on a larger, what felt like an epidemic that night. I'm watching guys spar in fundamentals class, and it's fucking Buchecha Hajar Gracie.
Oh,
like everyone's going so gosh darn hard
because they're trying to win.
So I actually had to stop the class.
Oh, you Chris Booed them.
I Chris Booed them. Like, between rounds, they were on the wall, and I was like, guys, I hate being preachy, but I'm going to preach right now.
Oh,
and I tried to, like, calm them down, but that didn't even...
Remember, Jiu-Jitsu means gentle.
That didn't calm them down too much either.
How many people were in fundamentals?
Maybe 16.
16 people?
Yeah.
Oh, they're like, Chris told you to do this, didn't you?
So,
did you say Jiu-Jitsu means gentle?
Here's my thing I'm wondering. Because the realization I had is, I don't normally teach. I'm a student. So I'm rolling. I don't look at any other people rolling.
Dude, everybody fucking goes crazy.
So when I watched everyone going ham, and right after I talked, two guys are going, and one guy is in close guard and proceeds to pick the guy up to sort of pick the guy. I'm like, whoa, calm down. And then they kind of fall back down to the ground. I was like, you guys, you're giving me a heart attack here.
So does it make sense as to why I do my speech before class now?
Yeah.
Right? Like, because I have to cover my bases,
but
right?
here's my thing.
It's necessary that people don't realize this.
Should we not let white belts, like, roll?
So that's an interesting question, because I do know that in other academies, people under the experience of 6 months are not allowed to roll. And actually, from my understanding, there are certain academies where even if you're new to the gym, you can't roll until you've been there for 6 months, regardless of belt, because you have to learn their rules. So there are two things I'm picking up from this, right? A, business, right? Because you can't go around injuring people because it's just bad for business and for people, right? Like,
sure.
And B, safety, which that's the broader thing of
yeah, but here's the third factor.
What's the third factor?
In some sick way, people have fun when they go hard,
right? But people can
until they get hurt.
Right.
And what I was trying to, and I didn't spend too much time harping on it when I stopped them. I was just like, guys, like, let's take it easy on each other, kind of. I didn't really go into,
people
like...
don't even realize that, because, like, this is something that's taken me, at this point, literally 15 years to learn, right? When I'm rolling with fucking Captain Schizo, right? It doesn't matter who you are, new dude, and I'm like, I got my closed guard locked on, because that's what I do. And they're going like, yeah, and you hear them grunting, and that's like the telltale sign of, like, fucking craziness, right? When you say, or let's reverse that, right? And I've at some point swept them because they've given me some sort of opening, and I mount them, and you can hear them like doing like Valsalva, like right, like they're just like completely like contracting against their diaphragm, like. And I say, like, bro, breathe, relax, work on keeping your elbows in, that sort of stuff. Like, I have to put myself in beginner's mindset, because like people, it's sort of like when you do Muay Thai and you're like, bro, keep your hands up. People think they're keeping their hands up just like they think they're breathing in jiu-jitsu, and they have no clue, right? And you tell them to, like, relax, and they have no idea what you mean. They think relax means do Tai Chi, right? Not... Because, like, have you ever done new technique with a brand new person?
Yeah. Many times.
They think that you have to go 100% to execute the technique. And, like, whenever I go with a brand new person, I almost tell them, like, dude, try moving in slow motion. And this is actually something that Steve Maxwell touched upon, right? He had said, like, he's like, if, like, traditional Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, you learn it in slow motion first. Because, like, if you can't even do it in slow motion, what makes you think you can do it fast motion?
Well,
right?
To that point, I recall something JB told me, which was try and do everything with the least amount of effort and strength possible.
Yes.
So that way, when you're in a competition situation or you need to turn it on, if you can control someone with an ounce of your pressure and strength, imagine what it feels like when you crank the volume up on your effort level. But you wanna be able to identify when it comes to control the points without masking it with muscle strength. Like I'm just squeezing the guy and holding him, but I'm really not identifying where I need to concentrate my pressure. And once I identify that, then I can go.
Exactly, right? And new people don't know this. So that's like the difficult part, because I think because grappling, like all of you had kind of mentioned it before, it's like the idea of grappling is sort of like it's counterintuitive to everything that you've been taught your entire life, or everything that's sort of like instinctual, right? Because like grappling really it's like the ultimate meta of like jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu. It's like the meta of like human nature and using pure thought, logic, experimentation, and technique to overcome that like natural human nature, right? Like who in their right mind thinks I need to relax to like sink this choke in?
Then the other thing, but the dilemma facing a new person, you have 2 brand new white belts, and you tell the one white belt, Mr. White Belt or Mrs. White Belt, relax, practice the technique, go easy. And the other person doesn't get that message and they go hard. Guess who wins?
Well, the person goes, that
goes hard.
And that's a super rhetorical.
So you have to somehow get these people to lose their ego. And that's, I think, the hardest thing. Because obviously the person that's relaxing and practicing, if you give them a few months.
Objectives.
Okay, well, so I'll get to that. Okay. I'll get to the objective part.
Do.
But my thing is if you can lose your ego and actually practice the technique and accept, quote, losing, whatever that fucking means when you're on a training mat, right? Like fucking losing, whatever, you're winning, like who the fuck cares, right? I'm guilty of it too. I'm guilty of that too. I'm obviously evaluating my performance based on how I roll with other people
and stuff. Noah,
I've got my ledger, man. I got my ledger.
Do you count taps?
No.
I
have a ledger book. I have a ledger book on my.
I'm like, I have no Noah. If that's what you. Okay.
No, but my point is obviously the person that starts practicing and loses right away will beat the person who's schizo and trying to win from the get-go within 3 months, because their technique will have advanced to the point where they can actually protect themselves against the full-on schizo kind of guy. But that's a hard sell for people, So that's why I'm thinking, and I think Paul mentioned this too, is maybe the solution is you don't let them free roll. You just situational spar the fuck out of everyone.
Yes.
And you just do 1 minute rounds. If you do 1 minute rounds for 15 minutes, everyone's going to be dead tired. Because when you give them 1 minute...
even if you're advanced, it doesn't matter.
It's like there's more of a sprint, especially if they're starting in advantageous positions, know? So that, I think, can control it. It's frustrating. It's not frustrating. It was demoralizing to not be a student for a moment, look around, and see how fucking crazy everyone is when they roll.
Yes.
And I thought I was crazy. I thought I was crazy when I rolled.
This is Chris Vu, 15 years of experience at this point. That's why, like, it's sort of like the idea of like parenting, right? Like
sorry, white belts. I'm sorry.
No. And but that's the thing, right? Like, it's just you just been doing it longer. You just experience more. It's literally like parenting. Like, you have to, like, when they go fucking bananas, you have to actually calm yourself, right? Like, you don't meet them at that because, like, all it does is encourage them, like, this is what you're supposed to do. No. You need to be a better example, right? So, like, laying out the clear expectations and getting a little philosophical, and I know we sort of forget that a lot of times, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, remember, we're doing jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu, by definition, means gentle skill or gentle technique.
The gentle art.
Right? It's like, so let's delve in a little Mr. John, Mr. Danaher here. Like, I like doing that. Maybe I'll start doing that. I'll start calling everybody, like, Mr. by their last name. Become, like, the super philosophical guy. Like, really encouraging the idea of what does gentle really mean? Does it mean being lazy in the case of Chris Vu? In my case, yeah. Does it mean in the Danaher definition of it being, using pure technique, leverage, some attributes because it's necessary to defeat the unskilled opponent, right? Like, and then and furthermore, like the skilled opponent. So like ultimately using your brain to overcome that like urge to right. So maybe we don't know that because people think of martial arts, especially in America, where it was, we have that like Karate Kid culture, the Bruce Lee culture of like striking. That the idea of striking, you have to hit them hard and fast, right? Like you don't hit somebody soft to knock them out. But you have to approach Jiu-Jitsu a little differently and grapple a little differently to truly. Oh.
Our first burp caught on camera.
Oh my God!
I will not edit that out.
No. That was. I'm done with mine. How are you doing on yours?
Well, I want to stay coherent, so I don't want to get too red in the face.
I'm actually more philosophical now.
No, I know you're great. I'm the one here drinking the beer. Like, gosh, man. The biggest thing is safety, and 2 people got hurt on my watch. I'm like,
oh, you've out Jamie.
I know. This is
oh
terrible.
my God.
It's okay.
Did you? Well, Victor, did you do your due diligence, sir?
Am I one of the two?
And log them?
What? Am I one of the two?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who was the other one?
Chico.
Well, your own. I mean, like you should log your own regardless.
I'm not gonna log my own because I'm not gonna sue the place anytime soon. And I haven't done Chico's, but I will do it.
I mean, Chico can like represent himself, so you're fucked, right? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, with Chico, I talked to him after, and I don't know if you talked to him. You message him?
Yeah, I talked to him. He's
okay. Good.
I think he'll be out a couple days, but he'll be at the party tonight.
Is he? Fuck.
Yeah, no, he's fine. It's just
I feel like such a shit for not being able to make it. Like, so like here's my conundrum for tonight. So just for everybody, today is Saturday the 14th, the day after Friday the 13th. We're all alive, right? It's our annual holiday party. We traditionally did it after the winter promotions. Today we're actually doing it. And by we I mean the gym, not me. At Paul and Caroline's clubhouse at their apartment complex. It's like a legit party, and they've booked a room and stuff. And like, this is like, this
formal
is awesome.
attire.
I'm
Actually,
not like
it's not
eating
formal
on like
attire,
a sweaty mat, and I can't fucking make it.
I thought you said you were coming late.
I'm gonna try to make it. So like,
because we're gonna watch the fights probably.
Are we really? Okay, I would love to. Because
what are your prior commitments, Chris? I'm curious.
It's my fucking family, Victor.
Oh no, I'm just curious, man.
Okay, it's literally my sister.
Jesus, I wasn't attacking or anything.
Like, I'm automatically defensive, and I'm guilty of this. My wife points this out all the time. It's literally my sister, my dad.
Okay.
So like for like 4 years now, they've been in their house for a certain amount of years. Like my sister's been inviting like us to their 3 years, I guess. To their Christmas party, and like we never go because like we're very regimented about Connor's like bedtime.
No, you know what it means? Chris is not gonna be there. I get to drink.
If you fucking open that and sip that,
Someone made Stacy made the comments like, you guys talk about underage drinking a lot. It's like,
well, that's the thing is like I have to HR the fuck out of this poor guy because we can't condone underage.
He's Colombian, and in Colombia the drinking age is not 21.
Are you born in Colombia?
Yes, I was.
Liar.
No, I'm not. I will show
really?
you my. You
have some sort of green card?
No, I have a dual citizenship because of there. So I have a passport. And actually, I lost my American passport, so my only passport is a Colombian passport, which is funny.
So on a side note, Victor recently lost his blue belt and is using a loaner blue belt. What happens? Is there some sort of Mr. Black Belt? Tell us. Is there some sort of tradition?
Did you really lose your blue belt?
I did. Well, so the one I'm using right now is Alexia's belt because the loaner one I was wearing, she's wearing it because it's smaller. But I actually like the color, and it's very popular with the kids. Like the color, it's a darker one, and I like it better.
Darker one.
Yeah. That's the one I originally wanted.
Are you Helio gracing yourself?
I don't know.
You don't do that.
That's the one I originally wanted, Coach Paul. But I'm just kidding.
The Helio Gracie
I'm just
one?
kidding. No, the darker blue one. I think
the darker blue one that's the one that Helio Gracie wears because he's like, Jiu-Jitsu has lost its way. I don't believe in the black belt anymore.
I thought the light blue was the traditional color, like the turquoise.
You mean like the sky blue one?
Yeah, I thought that was the traditional.
That's mine. Like that's like I call it the Brazilian blue belt. Right?
Yeah, I thought that was the traditional color for the belt.
I think
because he has a darker one. He has like
that's the one that like Helio Gracie's like,
That just looks
My
better.
art is so watered down. I don't even wear a real black belt.
That just
I'm
looks
gonna
better.
wear this navy blue belt forevermore. So Hoist Gracie now only wears a navy blue belt.
So you skip
Oh!
past. So you're no longer you're past black belt, dude.
You're past the coral. So you bypass purple, brown, black, coral.
You can tell the
onto
alcohol's getting
navy
into
blue
effect. We're
belt.
starting to go off tangent.
I mean, I like it better. It looks better. I don't know. It looks cool.
I really like the navy blue belt, man.
Yeah, the blue.
It automatically looks aged, so it looks like you put a
All
lot,
right,
a lot of
so
work in.
just for the entertainment purposes, walk us through when you stepped in for Chico and rolled with Clint version
fucking
2.0.
asshole.
Whoa, okay.
I'm sorry. I know. I don't mean.
What
it
was
like
his
that.
name?
I don't know. I don't know his name.
You don't even know?
I don't know.
Okay,
but
did
I
you
just-
totally miss our
no,
like
no,
instructor
but,
meeting the other day?
In all seriousness, I don't mean that, of course.
You better
So,
not mean that.
I don't mean that.
I don't mean that.
He was a reasonably nice guy. He was just like a little, rough because I mean, if
Because
you see him, he's like
jiu-jitsu.
a big dude. He's gonna go hard. But I don't know. I was thinking about that. We were doing leg locks, and I was just kind of going in, and then he just grabs my head and starts squeezing the shit out
So
of my head.
that's the thing, right? Like, so instructor level 1 for you, right? Not being an asshole. Number 1, you need to protect yourself.
Okay, so my question is, my reaction was, and I have a little temper when I roll, and something like that happens. I'm getting mad. So we're going, and
So the scene in Kill Bill where they play the music.
Yeah.
Like that's what happens.
It's like the
It's go
switch
time.
flips,
It's
like-
go time.
I was just mad. So we were.
That's awesome, by the way.
We were in this guillotine / head and arm thing because he had my arm. And
How'd
that's
you
my-
get there?
that
You
was my
shot?
shoulder. No, I didn't shoot. I was in my back. Not in my back. I was in my butt, like playing the leg locks.
And he just fucking front
and he
headlocked
just
you?
grabbed my head, and I was
This
like,
guy's seen Enter the System, hasn't he?
So,
This motherfucker.
so I
Point
was
this
like,
guy out. Let me
So-
lazy guard him.
So I'm not gonna leg lock this guy. I was like, I want to put my fucking sternum in your face. So I got up, and he dropped down, and I dropped on my shoulder with his weight, and that's when I had my shoulder pop.
Oh, fuck.
And that's where I was like, all right. So I got back up again, and he kept going on my head. So I just picked him up for a double, and I dropped him. And that's when I mounted him, and we were going, and I armbarred him, and then he's like, just give me a break. But at this point, I was like,
No, you neon belly him.
You're gone. You're gone.
No. So here's my advice.
It's like you don't get to squeeze my head and just go 100%.
Exactly. You don't
And
cardio
then
tap
just,
like that,
and then
bro.
just ask me to take a few seconds while you catch your breath. Nah, that's not how it
No.
works. homie, you know?
So here's I'm experience level. I'm a black belt now, right? Like that's there you go, Jeremiah. Are you fucking
He is
happy?
indeed a black
I'm a
belt
black
now.
belt now. So I'm a black belt now. I've taught many classes. I've done many trials. So here's and this goes back to my thing more, Noah. There's nothing more demoralizing to bro white belt than this fucking lazy, unathletic Asian dude sweeping you at will, mounting you, and just wet toweling the fuck out of you. I'm telling you, it's like if there's a way to sell jiu-jitsu, it's the perfect way to sell jiu-jitsu. Because like you sit there, you fucking drive your shoulder into their face, and they're like, "Grr," and they're trying to bench press you off their shoulder in my shoulder in their face, and you're like, my fucking strength doesn't work. It doesn't work against this fucking lazy guy.
I feel like instead of having the fire extinguisher like break glass in case of emergencies, like break glass, and out comes the lazy Asian black belt.
It's
Chris
the
Vu,
best thing.
And I
Like-
will wet blanket.
Right?
Who do I
Like,
wet
what's
blanket?
the
Who do I
better
wet-
sell in jiu-jitsu, right? Like the guy who's matching you in energy,
But
or the
knowing
guy who's
Victor-
reversing your energy.
Oh,
and just
absolutely. But knowing
demoralize the
Victor,
fuck out
Victor
of
is
you.
still the kind of guy who wants to wrestle. He'll wrestle a guy who's 300 pounds. Like I want to wrestle him. I came in with his legs, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna.
You Frank mirrored him.
Yeah, I know. I just sat there, and he had like, again, I think the guy's a nice guy, and I think the guy.
He's probably just strong as fuck, and he's used to
doesn't
getting
know
his way
any better.
because- Exactly.
He just doesn't
right?
know
He's
any
Saint
better.
Bernarding you, right? Like he's.
And like you said, it's a fight or flight thing, and he's just squeezing and using all his strength, you know. But when he told me, he's like, dude, you're just so relaxed and calm. And the minute, so I would get him into a dominant leg position, he would wrench a foot or something, and the minute he did that, I would apply a tap. I would tap him.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was kind of that. I mean, Victor will admit that he is to blame for his injury because of his approach.
No, yeah, 100%. I
You're
100%
so young,
blame
so
myself
young.
for this. I mean, it's not a bad injury. It's just a few days. But
Did you roll today, Victor?
I drilled.
Did you roll today, Victor?
I did not roll. I drilled.
Then it's a bad injury.
I wanted to roll, but I
I don't know. I'm not saying whether you did or didn't. I'm just saying
I tore my AC joint.
you tore your AC
Yeah, I tore
joint.
my AC joint months ago.
I don't know what an AC joint is.
It's like it's the one that's on top of your clavicle toward the outside of your arm. It connects your
That's very grappler Baki of you.
humerus and your collarbone anatomy. Yes, but I tore that a few months ago, and it feels similar, but doesn't feel as bad. So it's fine. But yeah, 100% my fault. I should have approached it in a more
So how was the
defensive
follow-up
way.
phone call with this gentleman? Like,
What do you mean?
Like, hey, when can we see you again?
As far as with this guy?
The dude who went crazy.
Well, I mean, I after the fact, before he left the gym, I said bye to him, like I said bye to everybody.
Where's the follow-up call? I'm helping you out here.
I'm not. I'm
What is
confused.
effective sales? Sales is about the follow-up. That's how you fucking close, Victor.
He says, thank you. He wants you to call him up. Like, thank you for bruising my AC joint. Or when are you going to sign up? We want to see you,
You say,
again.
hey, bro, how was your experience?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you have fun?
What?
And
No.
when will we see you again? You assume the goddamn sale, Victor.
I'm pretty sure he's gonna come back, but
No, there is no pretty sure.
But here's the thing. No, here's
You
here's the
call
thing.
that
He
dude
was,
up.
He was a fairly nice guy. It's just a fucking schizo in the mats, and which is
Whoa,
normal.
so-
So here's the thing. So what's interesting is we've had, because we're doing well, we've had an influx of new white belts over the last few weeks, right? And
I heard a podcast was...
they all are very roll happy. Like, they will stick around after class and roll with each other and beat the fuck out of each other. So they're enthusiastic.
I'm pretty sure everybody does that, but yeah.
But they're enthusiastic. It's more noticeable right now.
Okay.
It's just this dude was jacked to the gills and 230. You know what I mean?
2:30.
Oh, at least.
Where was Yoga John?
It's the evening. Yoga John's already in bed.
Come on, get Yoga John
So-
in here. We need the nicest dude ever who's also jacked. To
But
just
So the point is when I go with other guys, them being schizo is not as much of a threat because they're not physically
because they're not
as
230,
imposing,
right.
you know? And I can actually use strength to, if I needed to. So, again, I'm glad Victor shared his side because it was funny.
Victor,
But the-
you were literally doing this against somebody who's 100 pounds heavier than you.
Oh,
basically.
dude, it was hilarious. It was
Are
fucking
you
hilarious.
out of your mind? So,
Dude, he just dove in. He just dove in. He put on his wrestling because his
Oh
ears
my
like a little
God.
messed up, so he put on his headgear and he dove in, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And
you
I'm
got
not-
your
I-
headgear on too. Were you like? Was
I
it like
couldn't-
Rambo, where it's like
Well,
the
I couldn't stop
montage
him
of you
because
gearing
I
up?
knew it was like it's already happened. I can't stop. him
Oh,
now.
Victor.
I was
Victor,
wondering.
Victor.
It's like, is there any world where I could step in and say, guys, chill out?
Yes, there absolutely
I would
is.
have said no. I could fuck out of my face. Because at that point,
Chris.
at that point, you already popped my shoulder. You already squeezed my jaw. We're going. It's like.
Oh,
saying,
this is a failure on my part somehow. Like, oh
Where were you,
my
Chris?
God. I was. I don't know what I was.
So yeah, we're not
doing.
perfect.
No. So
All right,
there's
fellas,
a lot
I'll
to
leave
learn. I may see you tonight, Victor. Goodbye. And Alexia, good day to you.
Good day, sir.
So how are you enjoying teaching? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, I've since I was 11, I was teaching something. without
11?
thinking. Yeah.
11.
The best story ever.
What were you teaching at 11 years old? Please tell me.
Here's what's so funny, is Stacy was
Stacey
like,
Thornton.
yeah,
Okay.
Stacy's
are you
like,
having
so
conversations with my wife?
she's listening to the podcast. So hey, Stacy, shout out to Stacy. She's listening to the podcast. And you know how it usually is? People go on a long trip and they need something to listen to in the car.
John Estrada did that 5 hours of us.
That's
That's
right.
incredible.
That's what I'm saying. So she had a business costume party, Christmas party.
A business costume party.
So her company had a Christmas party with a superhero theme.
Was
you would
she-
have loved this.
Was she fucking the Hulk? Because she
Well,
is.
I told her to go as like, she's like, what's the quickest costume? And I was like, we'll go as like Superman. Just we'll wear a Superman rash guard or
yeah,
something.
or just fucking.
And she had some like baby Groot outfit that she was gonna
what?
rock. She was gonna make like a baby Groot outfit. It looked super complicated. She sent me like
No, she doesn't.
because she's a DIYer. It wasn't like she's gonna go to Walmart and buy.
Yeah, but it's so much easier to buy it from some like slave
I know.
labor
What she ended up
Chinese
going
kid.
is basically Santa Claus, Superman kind of. Like she basically wore a rash guard and glasses. You know what I mean?
Fair.
Anyway, but she listened to it and she found out, she's like, oh, apparently, what did I learn from listening to the podcast? Oh, you did tennis. So I guess I've noticed I keep bringing tennis up and I'm not trying to.
I mean, it's your life
but
experience.
it's funny.
You know, it makes you you.
But the classic story, and I don't know, to other people it might sound ludicrous. To me and my like tennis buddies, it's fucking hilarious. But I started teaching tennis when I was 11 years old.
Explain.
So I was essentially Victor.
Oh.
So my head coach was doing a summer program out at a place called Hancock Point, and it was all kids. And I had been a student of his for a few years. I had started playing tennis when I was 7, so I was 11 now.
So you were essentially a purple belt at 7, or excuse me, at 11. 4 years of experience?
I mean, I had the 4 years of experience, but I know we like to associate belts to stuff, but
I've been doing this for 15
it's difficult
years.
because you're a kid.
Let me have my glory.
Once you grow into your body and you can start doing things, and jiu-jitsu even more so, it's like your body and your physical attributes allow you to do certain things. You know?
Sure.
But the better thing to say is I'd been training since I was 7. I had competed. I did well at the state level in Maine, which is not a high level tennis wise, but
You were state, man. Come on.
Huh?
Like that's awesome.
No. So anyway, but my coach was like, "Hey, you wanna help out?" And I was flabbergasted. I was like, "No, I don't wanna like you teach me, and I don't want no. You're gonna pay me to help.
You
coach?
paid? You got paid an 11-year-old?
No, wink, wink.
You mean what's the term? Scholarship.
Yeah, scholarship.
Scholarship. There you go.
Well, actually, in reality, so I haven't said this, but I guess I'll share it on the podcast.
Say it
because there are only 3 people.
You're in, man. You
So
can't not do it. So you can't.
when
not do it.
I started playing tennis under a guy by the name of Eric Hartman. He came in, and my mom worked at a local health food store in Maine, in Ellsworth, Maine, and he basically came in and said, "Hey, I'm teaching tennis. You know, why don't you bring your son?" So I came in, and he gave the typical kind of like, "Oh, you know, he's a natural, you know, kind of, that kind of thing."
Yeah.
So I took lessons there, and it was all group lessons.
Did
like
did
2 or
your
3
parents got sold? They got.
No, my parents were great in that regard. They never were. They just dropped me off. They never were there. They never. That was the best thing that I had, is they let me alone. Most parents are micromanaging their kids, and it's terrible. So I was very lucky that they.
Interesting that you say that. I have something to say about that.
So I mean, it was funny to the point where I was like 17 or 18, and some coaches approached my parents, like, "Hey, do you want to enroll him in this academy?" And my mom was like, "Well, go talk to him." And they're like,
Really?
"What?"
Okay.
So that's its own little story. But this guy Eric Hartman got me started. He left. A guy by the name of Fred, I don't know his last name, took over. There's also a guy by the name of Joe Haratunian that I took a few lessons from. There were a couple just tennis coaches in the area. Then the guy who I consider my tennis coach, I still talk to him on a weekly basis.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One of my close friends. His name's Rusty Dyer, outstanding coach.
That's a very coach name, by the way.
Yeah, Rusty Rocket. I never called him Rusty Rocket. A lot of people did, but he came in. He moved into the area, which again, there's no tennis in Maine, but this guy was a very high-level coach. And tennis lessons, as you can imagine, are quite expensive. It's a rich person's sport, you know. And most people are doing it at a country club. We don't have country clubs in Maine, but there was a kind of a tennis center there because you need indoor courts in Maine because of the weather.
Academy, you might say?
No, it was not an academy.
Okay.
I would not say that. It was just anytime you have indoor courts, you've invested in tennis because it takes upkeep. Usually tennis courts are outside and you don't need to worry about weather and stuff. Anyway, because of, I don't even know the rationale, but I was sponsored by a local tennis association or the state association.
Hold
to
that
train.
thought too, because I have a question about the idea of sponsorship.
So,
I have many questions about sponsorship, but go on.
Okay. Who is that guy?
So the sort of like, the thing is, Chris Boone fucking knows everybody. I know everybody. There are probably more students who walk in the door who know who I am than who know the coaches they're signing up with. Which I guess I'm a coach now. I'm on the website. That's Carlos Mendez. He was one of my students at ATT Winter Springs. So
There was an ATT Winter Springs. I'm only aware of ATT.
that's the one I worked for, bro.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Am I keenaning it? Like, bro?
Well, that sounds better than saying literally and all the time. So that's good.
What's your
I
mark?
heard you say. Well, I've said a couple times.
But anyway, so that was Carlos Mendez, green belt under John Sissio and Christopher Vu. Two striped purple belts.
That's
awarding belts somehow.
That's awesome.
I don't know if you can, but it was with the blessing of Jose Figueroa. Anyways, go on.
That's awesome. I just said it now.
Did you say what?
I said
I mean,
So
we're human.
Where I was, so I got sponsored to take 8 weeks of class free. Like they sponsored me, and I wasn't really mindful of this, but I kept going in and training, and I'm sitting there thinking, I think the 8 weeks has gone by, but everyone just keeps waving me through and doing that. So what had really happened in the background was this guy, Rusty, who was a coach, I guess had taken a liking to me, and he coached me for free. I've never paid the guy in my entire life.
Nice.
And I've trained with him for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours.
It's like my legacy.
When he asked me, and this was already happening, when he asked me at 12 to teach and he was going to pay me, it was a double whammy because I knew at that point he was not only giving me group lessons, but he was actually giving me private lessons for free.
Nice.
And then he's offering to actually
pay you
compensate me with candy, let's say.
There we go. Yeah.
So he put me out there with these kids. He convinced me, and put me out.
And what age were they?
They were like 7, 8.
Okay.
But very quickly, I was dealing with high schoolers when I was 12.
At 12-year-old?
At 12 and 13. When I was 13, 14, I was dealing with parents, and they were asking me about
were
what's
you
the
always
summer program.
5'11" or 5'10" or whatever were you?
No, I was 4'10" or 4'11". So, I mean, this kind of really peels back a big part of like my growth as a person, because I was a very shy person when I was growing up. I was so shy to the point that I'd walk down my street, and if there were kids playing in the street, I would go into the woods and circumnavigate them and then come out the other side.
Really?
That's how shy I was.
But here you are. You'll talk to anybody. Did tennis save your life?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
In that respect, it did. So by him having me coach,
tennis save your life.
I had to deal with kids, deal with parents asking questions. And anytime you do anything for a period of time, you're going to get better at it. So by the time I was 17, by the time I was 18 and getting ready to go to college, by a bunch of circumstances and chance, I ended up walking into one of the most prestigious tennis academies in the United States in Bradenton, Florida, IMG Academy.
And where?
In Bradenton, Florida.
Bradenton. That's over on the West Coast.
West
right?
Coast, just north of Sarasota.
Okay.
And getting offered a job to be an assistant coach there, which is not that big of a deal.
What do you mean that's not a big deal?
It's not a big deal because
people are entrusting you to instruct and help improve their performance.
They have 300 to 400 kids coming there. They needed someone that could play tennis, and I was a guy getting ready to play in college, so they looked at me and was like, okay, this is some college dude, like, we can throw him out there. A lot of the guys were guys in my situation, college players who trained at that academy before, got positions in college, and then came back and worked there in the summers to make some, like, that was the thing. So the guy asked me, "Have you done that? Have you taught tennis before?" And all
And you
this
were
talk,
like,
all this talk,
Did you?
all this talk. I was like, I've been doing this for 8 years, and I said it with a straight face. And I don't know. The guy didn't react anyway, but I'm thinking like, who the fuck? Like, you're 18 and you say you've had 8 years of experience.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck is this
You're
guy?
a black belt, right? Like that's literally a
So-
black belt.
I went out there, and I was off to races. I've always said I've achieved way more as a tennis coach than I have as a tennis player. So when I went to Spain after I graduated, what did I do in Spain for 2 years? I taught English. What did I do when I came back and I went to grad school? I was a teaching assistant. So without trying to fall into jobs of teaching, I've fallen into jobs of teaching.
And teaching's a skill, right? Like being.
So
able
I
to-
do. Yeah, obviously you need to possess the knowledge of what you're doing, but teaching in general, there's some. It does carry over. So yes, I do like. I have to say I like teaching because I've always done it. I've
Awesome.
never had an issue with it. So
I think teaching also is like the ultimate in, like, you know, you say in jiu-jitsu especially, like, check your ego at the door. It's like the ultimate in like checking your ego, right? Because you like the ideal teacher, you want to train your replacements. If not that, like train the people who can beat you.
some
right?
people aren't like that. Like I know teachers that won't teach their students because they don't want the students to get better than them.
But like, and that's that ego, right? Like,
Oh,
ultimately.
absolutely.
And like, because like we all train this art and stuff, and it's like, I think you have to approach it from like a very meta, which maybe because like the nerd in both of us do this, is like we approach it from the idea of like bettering the art, right? Like because like I won't get better, and we understand the idea of like scientific method, where there's like experimentation and growth and peer review essentially, which is sparring. Like the cream tends to rise to the top, and because of that, like the more knowledge that's passed on, shouldn't that make jiu-jitsu better overall, or tennis overall, or whatever the case
So
is, right?
in my case, I think selfishly, I enjoyed teaching jiu-jitsu. So I didn't know what my thought was going to be when I was teaching it.
Jiu-jitsu or tennis?
Jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu. Okay, so like last week.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what it was going to feel like. I enjoyed it. Selfishly, it was very beneficial for me and my jiu-jitsu because I already was seeing connections that I wouldn't see
Okay.
if I was just a
They
student.
always say the best way to learn is to teach, right?
So I would like to continue teaching just to be a better jiu-jitsu practitioner. Also, to your point about making jiu-jitsu better, I have the opinion that if I can share my, quote, secrets, all that is I find that this works.
Right.
You know, I've had success doing this. If I can show that to people instead of, like, keep it secretive, then they will defend better against my attacks. And
Which
in doing so,
forces-
I have to get better.
Yes.
So now the level's getting better. I've been contemplating, I've never brought this up with Paul. I don't think Paul listens to the podcast, so I don't
No,
care saying
he doesn't
it.
give a fuck
But
about
I would
us.
like to, I've been contemplating teaching a module style class. So
I think
for
that's
2
what it-
months, I would teach this 2 days a week or 3 days a week. And if you can't make it, tough shit, because I'm going to assume you can attend most classes and it's going to build. And I'd like to do, I've always come back to it. I want to teach some sort of leg locks class, like beginner leg lock defense and attacks.
I would take that class.
Because I want everyone to protect. The goal with that is I want everyone to be safe, so that if someone catches you, if you go to another gym and someone catches you in a leg lock, you identify it and you can tap before you get hurt.
Yeah.
And then in doing so, because I don't want to get cheap taps because I'm doing something the other person doesn't know. Like, if you go with someone that doesn't know leg locks and you put them in honey hole and you tap them, are you better at jiu-jitsu than that person?
In that position, yes.
In that position, yes. But basically I want to eliminate that hole. Like, I think
But that's because you're also approaching it from like no ego, right? Like, because like ultimately we
No,
all
I think it's egotistical. If my training
Is it?
partners get better, then I'm getting better. That's an
what I'm saying.
egotistical
Well,
thing.
that's true. Like in the most roundabout way. Is that dude drinking a beer also while doing Muay Thai? No, he's not. Okay, all right. It's just
Oh,
it
that would've
happens to
been
be a
sick.
blue bottle. I'm like, maybe we need to just make a BJJ and discussion and not BJJ and Brews. You're not done yet. Come on, man. I'm finishing up my second. These are my
but
calories
I'm going to be
for the day.
partying tonight as well. You
really?
may or may not be.
I will be, because I will be at my brother-in-law's house and my sister's house, who I'm pretty sure my brother-in-law might
All right,
be
we'll
a
have a
functional
second one
alcoholic.
here. This one I'm finishing. Pass me whatever you think is acceptable.
So, the red one's good, man. The Old Fezziwig. Like,
Okay.
you know who Old Fezziwig is, right?
I do not.
Are you fucking kidding me? You're so not white. So, like, So, have you not read A Christmas Carol or listened to it or seen a Christmas or listen? Whatever.
I have, but I don't watch it every.
So, Old Fezziwig is like the rich dude who
a Christmas Carol or a Christmas Story.
Christmas Carol.
Okay, the old school.
The old school Ebenezer Scrooge. It's when Scrooge was actually in our point in life now, where like he's like deep in his career, and he's like only focused. He's like the Gen Xer, right? Like focused on making fucking money and blah blah blah.
I'm a millennial, bitch.
Yes, I'm a millennial. Relax. I'm like the
Okay.
top end of that. So he's like, fuck that. I'm worried about my career. What is this bullshit? Everybody's stopping and like spending a day. Like these are like opportunity costs. I should be like earning money right now, right? Like, who is this fucking old man? He's an idiot, Old Fezziwig. And he's throwing like a Christmas party for all his employees, right? And Ebenezer Scrooge is looking at him like scoffing. Oh, yeah. I actually have two fist packs, so choose the horse one.
I'm just getting my can opener here.
Bottle
opener.
Yes, it's the horse one. It's the
this
for
one's
my
good.
yeah. It's a fist pack, or actually a bottle opener. Excuse me, for anybody who's TSA out there. So Old Fezziwig's the dude who like threw a party for
Okay,
Ebenezer
this is way
Scrooge.
better.
Which one's that? Are you kidding me?
No, it's not way better, but
It's-
after a heavy beer, I wanted something a little lighter, so I appreciate
it's a
having
better source of calories. For you.
refreshing lager. Hey, man, I need the calories. I'm
Yeah.
calorie deficient.
When did you eat last?
I ate breakfast.
Okay, fair
I had a
enough.
big protein shake before I went to bed.
So you're not like an intermittent faster?
I try not to be, man. I burn through fucking calories like crazy. I'm always probably
Really?
calorie deficient.
So you really? So I mean, I'd like to be at that point again.
Yeah.
Hashtag Team Dad Bod. Really? So you eat 3 meals a day?
I'm like Uriah. I don't know if it was an Ultimate Fighter or an Up Close, but I remember Uriah Faber complaining about how hard it was to maintain weight. He would always drop weight.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
identified with that. I'm not saying I'm as good as Uriah Faber at anything in terms of mixed
to
martial
be
arts.
34 again.
But yeah, I have to. Eating becomes a job for me to actually.
Really?
Yeah. it's
Okay.
ridiculous.
I remember that when I was like 165.
I'm exactly 165.
Are you really? Oh,
Yeah.
give yourself a couple years, bud. I'm
Okay.
kidding. Those cheese curds add up quick. But Old Fezziwig was the guy who like wanted to bring joy to Ebenezer Scrooge's life. Is like, hey, you need to enjoy life and share with others. You know, like I've worked hard for this and I should give back.
Okay.
So that's Old Fezziwig Ale. Is one of Sam Adams's.
Gotcha.
Like, you know, so it's a delicious beer, by the way. But that's also not what you're drinking, so it doesn't matter. That's irrelevant at this point. I'm amazed at the amount of love for jiu-jitsu that can be conveyed from vastly different life experiences. Because like I was
Elaborate on that because I'm not.
so like you're approaching your love for jiu-jitsu and it like really trying to further the art by way of your experiences in like teaching tennis, right? Like, and I approached it from like many years. I got my black, God, I don't even know in Taekwondo at what age I was and stuff because I like try to keep that in the closet. But like I'm a third degree black belt and thanks Alan for like totally letting everything out. But like I had to teach quite a few classes and stuff too. Like I was like the Friday night teacher when I was doing Taekwondo and stuff. And like, and I've carried that forward to like jiu-jitsu because I understand the value of like rising tides lift all ships, right? Like as my students at the time get better, like that forces me to get better as well. That's cool that like transcends. It should transcend all sports and all arts. Like, so
I
like,
think it's a lazy mentality and a cheap mentality to think I'm going to hoard knowledge in order to win. Like,
it's very short-sighted, right? Because that's purely based on you.
Yeah. Like,
Which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like, for competition purposes, I get it.
Nah, man. Maybe I'm a little too headstrong or arrogant or stubborn, but I'd much rather tell you I'm going to do this and then do it and see if you can stop me.
Ooh, thank you, Hickson Gracie.
Then try to be like I'm going to invent some technique you haven't seen before.
So that's interesting because like that's a Hickson Gracie thing, right? Like his philosophy about jiu-jitsu was like, I'm going to tell you I'm doing this. You're going to know before I tell you I'm going to do this. And there's nothing you can do to stop
Ultimately,
it, right?
it should get to that point. The thing with jiu-jitsu is there's so many fucking techniques. I don't think it'll ever get to that point.
Don't you think so, though? I mean, like, there is that mythology floating around.
Maybe they'll happen because I actually watched... I think I told you I was watching the first Craig Jones instructional on leg locks.
Okay, like down under...
down under. And I was looking at some of the stuff he showed, and I've already seen... The guy who gave him his black belt, Lachlan, kind of contradicts some of that stuff. Like, not all of it.
But,
like,
that's because Lachlan's exiting the system, right?
But my point is stuff's already becoming deprecated. Well, deprecate. I'm using a software engineering term. It's deprecated. It's already being identified as not ideal.
Not ideal or just not ideal?
We found more efficient ways to do it. Like, don't do it this way. We found a better way to do it.
But that's the thing, right? Because, like, that's the idea of exiting the system in general. It's sort of like the idea... I mean, like, I'm amazed that you even asked me about close guard because it's sort of generally accepted that I'm, like... I'm the close guard guy, right? Like, because
You're the only guy that fucking does close guard.
I'm literally the only person in this gym that does... Yeah. I agree, right? Like, it's everything to
You'll be proud of me, though. I kept citing you. Well, you wouldn't be proud that I kept dropping your name.
Don't do that.
No, well,
as long as you don't say... well, actually, as long as you do say black belt Chris Vu. That's the only thing that matters.
The good thing... I was very fortunate that I was able to do fundamentals back-to-back days because I hate one-off classes, and I was able to... I hope correct what I messed up the day before because I did not like how my first fundamental class went. But I was teaching a back take from close guard. And the back take from close guard for me was secondary. I just wanted people to have their hips off the ground and on their people's laps.
Yes.
And know that an objective for you that will get you started in a lot of different situations in most attacks and sweeps is bring your knees to your eyes and break them down.
Yes. Or make them bear your weight and create an angle.
Yeah.
That's
so I just want to give them and then of course I gave them a back take because what happens. You break them down, you have to break a grip.
It's sort of like the ultimate in like the sort of
break their center line. You break their center line. You break them down, you take their back. You could go into omoplatas, you go into all that. But I wanted them to get that because everyone I saw had their fucking butt cheeks on the ground.
On the ground, yeah. That's what everybody does.
And
they don't... Yeah.
That was the thing I was hoping to get, and I think I structured things a little better the second time around, that I was able to emphasize that a little better and not confuse them with going over too many different things.
No, and you're adding to it, right? Like that's good. Like that's also a sign
I still want that curriculum up on the fucking whiteboard.
What
Paul Rodriguez, I'm calling your ass out, even though you don't listen to this.
I will have it by the weekend. I promise you.
If we have that curriculum, a weekly curriculum up on the whiteboard, anyone can come in and teach it.
That's interesting too, right? Because
everyone can teach their own slant, but the students can come in.
But the common denominator should be the same, right? Like because principles are principles regardless.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's one of the beauties of jiu-jitsu.
I think seminars are good for blue belts. I don't think they're really good for white belts.
Seminars? Yeah, because you don't know what you don't know, right? Like
you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know enough to really
apply
understand.
the
Like
nuances.
I think it's cool. Like one of the coolest classes I had when I was at this Iceland camp was a levers class. It was called levers
or levers.
Levers
Was it British folks?
And this guy Steve O'Keefe, who I consider myself an acquaintance of his. Nice guy. He actually came and trained here once.
Yo, he's the photo.
He's the guy who came and trained.
Awesome.
He trained. It was cool. Unfortunately, I had just bruised my ribs, so I couldn't roll. So I was fucking pissed.
God damn it, Jamie. That's strike two.
But he taught a class called levers, and he showed 6 disparate techniques that all involved a lever concept. I thought it was awesome.
What belt was he?
Black belt.
Okay.
Oh, he's a black belt.
Cool.
And he's a head instructor at a gym at Checkmat in England, in London. Good guy. MMA. Fought Conor McGregor.
Really?
Yeah.
In Cage Warriors or something?
He lost to Conor, but he beat Artem.
Really?
There you go, man. 9-3.
Oh man! So he's like a fuck that guy because he beat an SBG guy, but awesome.
So
I love SBG.
He taught a really good class. It's actually online, so if you look for Iceland 2019 levers, you'll probably find his class. So check it out.
Are you the Uke? Is that why you're just plugging yourself?
I'm plugging him.
Okay.
No, I'm not in that.
You're not.
I might be in the
fair
background, but I'm not like a training partner.
Speaking of which, BJJ or who is that one blue belt lady who randomly shows up in our classes every so often, like once every like 2 months?
She's I know who you're talking about.
I don't know what her name is. I saw her in an SBG camp video.
Really?
Yeah, like the one up. There was one like because I love SBG, right? Like between Paul and like SBG, like they're the foundation of my jiu-jitsu, and now Danaher. I saw her like front and center, like watching a seminar.
No kidding.
Online, yeah. I'll send the clip of that. But anyways, go on. So Sean O'Keefe showing levers.
Not Sean. Steve O'Keefe.
Steve O'Keefe. Sean, I just made you up.
So his levers
twin
were
brother.
The first lever I've seen before. We've all probably seen it. It's
armbar from
classic half guard sweep.
Classic half guard.
When you dive under and gather the leg, you gather the foot and pull it toward you. That's a lever.
Fair enough. Okay. All right.
And then
he
showed a way to break down a person when you're on their back, but you only have one hook and not 2 hooks. And it involves
you're on your back.
No, excuse me. You're on. Your opponent is turtled. You're on their back. You have one hook, but not the second hook.
Okay, so I imagine it's near side.
You find a lever. You actually use your foot and lever at their ankle. Back in most of the levers were you attack their foot or their ankle
to make their knees parallel. I
Correct.
imagine. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm seeing common denominators already.
But what was cool is he did that from there. He
did
it from butterfly. He did a cool entry from 2 ways, from a failed butterfly sweep into a honey hole using that. He did it from a shin on shin. And he showed a really cool concept in a bunch of different positions. That I don't think a white belt could appreciate.
No, I think that's like honestly even a purple belt is just beginning to understand that, because I feel as though like white and like up to high level blue, you're worried about techniques, whereas like high level blue, purple, that's where you really start to understand like the why and the physics behind things.
Well, what that did immediately for me, obviously there are a couple cool entries and I've tried to do the entries, but more than anything is I'm more cognizant of when I'm grabbing, I won't grab the shin, I'll grab, if I can, the toes. And yank on the toes. And it's amazing.
The lever, right?
Exactly. And it sounds silly because I've seen these videos with these guys talking about levers and this and that. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, are you guys trying to sound like
but it's
extra
physics, right?
But like, it's true.
It's literally
I'm starting
physics.
to get it and appreciate it now, where I didn't appreciate it at first. Now I'm starting to appreciate it. So my whole point with that story was I like classes like that, but I don't think they would work in a fundamental setting. In a fundamental setting,
really, I disagree 100% though, Kind
Because
of.
I don't think they. You need to know. You need to have done it, quote, traditionally,
Just
and not
know
been
the
shown
movement.
the connection, and then be shown the connection.
Interesting.
Because otherwise, you get too. I don't disagree with you that, hey guys, levers, grab the end of the lever. That's important. But it's almost like learning mathematics and arithmetic by hand, and then you get the calculator to appreciate the calculator. You'll appreciate
fair
the calculator more when you've done the arithmetic, and you're like, well, this takes forever. Now I can just do it on a calculator. Whereas if you just get given with the calculator, you don't understand what you're coming from.
Okay.
So if you know the half guard sweep, and you probably did it with a good lever, but then that lever part gets highlighted, now you're going to appreciate that component of it. And I fucking saw Paul teach, a knee cut, just a knee slice, to kids, and I was noticing things that either he never showed me or I missed. And I'm like, there are a lot of damn good details in there. So every technique, that's the thing. My biggest thing with going back to the teaching is I'm always going to preface it with, like, this is a decent way to do it. There are always other ways, and people might change it, and I might change it in the future. But I'm going to try and stick to what I know. But there's so much. I would be an asshole and a liar if I claimed to know. I know how it is. Because jiu-jitsu is so amorphous right now. It's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing, it's constantly better, and it also depends on the person. Like I hate claiming something. I prefer presenting things as, and that going back to the leg lock idea, is like, I'm just going to say, look, I want everyone to be safe. I want to show you some basic principles. I want to show you some basic entries, some basic defenses, some basic concepts. It's all subject to change in the next year, if because I don't know outside Senkaku like Lachlan Giles does, and I know there's all this new shit that people are doing, and that's the thing that's kind of
not new shit.
Yeah, I think
it's
ultimately
their systems-based approach to it, right?
I think ultimately jiu-jitsu comes down to being very good at concepts and then improvising,
right,
knowing your concepts. So you do the technique, but you don't remember the
it's sort of like
techniques.
the idea of, and I know you like this guy, and now I know I've always liked this guy, is like the grilled chicken guard,
Oh yeah, Prit.
right? Like Prit,
or
SPG,
Preet, yeah.
you know.
Now you like
I'm
him.
pretty sure the originators of the term tribe, actually.
Oh really?
Ooh, maybe I can get some affiliation action going. Get like dual affiliation. Does that work in jiu-jitsu, or does like, I don't know how that works.
It's like a double. It's like I have a dual citizenship.
Yeah,
I have
exactly.
a passport to him.
I mean, like, we literally call ourselves Tribe Martial Arts. So like Prit, right? Like his thing is, there's certain concepts that work with the grilled chicken guard, right? Like elbows to knees and elbows to chest, right? Like that just produces a good guard, right? And you had mentioned this earlier, actually, I think a couple of days ago, the idea that you had learned some random thing at like your seminar that you went to, and you tried it on Paul, and he immediately shut it down, right? And you had said like, oh, it's not so much that Paul has encountered that situation many times, but it's just a matter that he understands concepts that apply to most situations for most positions, right? Like, so is that's the ultimate in learning jiu-jitsu, I feel, right? Because like, not to toot myself, but actually Derek,
Toot yourself.
I will. Black belt Chris Vu says this. Derek Hudeberg, who's now a brown belt under Dylan, who's also a black belt under Paul.
I trained with him yesterday.
Did you?
Dylan was in here yesterday.
Dylan was here?
Yeah.
Oh yes, Gumby.
Yeah.
Did you try to stretch shit and it didn't work?
No, I mean I only got 1 or 2 1-minute rounds. We were starting on our feet.
He's got very good jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, it was fun to roll with him.
Very fun.
He also knows. He tried to do a funky wrist lock on me, and I asked him about it, and then he told me that he used to train Japanese jiu-jitsu back in the day, which was almost quasi aikido.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. It was it felt like an estima lock on my hand. I was like, "What are you doing?"
Dude, he and I share quite a few very similar views about the tradition that should be involved in jiu-jitsu.
But it was fun to have him out there.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. So like Derek's a brown belt under him, and when Derek was a green belt as a student at Winter Springs, and I was a high level purple belt, and I was teaching classes there. He actually said to me, he's like, Chris, like, he's like, you don't know this, but you're one of the more influential instructors to me because you are very, very deeply into the idea that you don't believe in technique, you believe in principles, right? And I remember this class specifically, now I think back to it, is I taught the idea of passing guard, which is, this is a very SPG approach, is that all guard passes have 5 similar principles.
You want a beer?
Get in here. Get in here. Dude, Paul, black belt Chris Vu says you need to have a beer with us. There's some 10. And
then he grabs a beer.
There's some 10%ers in the fridge, in the cooler, which you'll appreciate more probably. You need a bottle opener?
He's got the one.
But that's right. So I mean, like, and Derek said, like, man, like, ever since you pointed that out, everybody tends to teach in techniques. And he's like, but you pointed out the concepts of like opening the guard, controlling the legs, controlling the hips, blocking out the hips, and locking down the upper body. He's like, I've always approached jiu-jitsu that way from the moment you pointed that out to me, right? So like, I feel as an instructor, it's important to teach technique, right? But like, you really need to teach the underlying principles as to why each technique works. And when you can do that effectively for all techniques, that's when you're truly teaching jiu-jitsu to your students.
And I think that's why teaching makes you a better jiu-jitsu practitioner. Because in my head, I'm thinking about, why am I telling them this?
Yeah, exactly, right?
So
like,
that's when it connects the dots for me. So as this wasn't actually a teaching thing, but I just had a realization. In the blue belt curriculum, rather, to get your blue belt, one of the techniques you're required to know, as of now, always subject to change, is what we call the tripod pass. It's a half guard pass where you tripod up and pass their guard.
Right.
From half guard. The first thing you're taught to do is put your head on the other side. So you're in a traditional, you're not in Z guard. You have your underhook. You have your underhook. You have a crossface, and you put your head on the other side. And I never thought to why we do that. You just do that. And then I realized that's preventing deep half.
Yes.
That realization, granted, didn't come from teaching, but those are the kind of realizations that go a long way, I think, to improving someone's jiu-jitsu, because if you know concepts, then you don't have to remember. You don't have to exactly on the fly. Your decision making is based on core concepts that shouldn't let you down, unless there's some rare.
So you say this, right?
Unless there's some rare counter.
Of course, I mean, like, there's exceptions to every rule, but like, if you play the percentages.
But I think anyone that's well-rounded, you can. I think realistically, if you go 100% concept-based, you'll probably still not be the best grappler. But if you know concepts along with,
I think
most common positions
is what matters.
If you know, because I think, for example, the over-under position, if someone's trying to pass you, comes up enough that you should kind of know how to handle that situation and not be strictly concept-based. So I think if we kind of establish what common positions are, deep half guard, Z guard, close guard, double underpass, these kind of things, that will give you a good basis of defense and specific counters to things. And then the concept stuff carries you through. You go into a new gym where people do all this weird shit you've never seen before, but guess what? You hold up okay because you have the concept.
And I think that's what ultimately allows, like, students, I think, especially with most learning models, people tend to look for this, like, technique versus technique idea, right? Like, it's this purely heuristic based thing. If you sort of like understand, and Paul pointed out today, and I realize now because I apply it to my game, I didn't realize I do it until Paul pointed out today, is like the idea of regarding. And the reason why he actually pointed out where he said most people, if you're high, they'll get their foot in and they'll make their frame with their foot to be able to shove you away, essentially just kick you away on that regard. Like, that's a failure on everybody who's trying to pass, because I can do that to basically everybody, right?
If you have good hip flexibility, it gives you a bigger window to do it. But at the end of the day, the passer should be removing the space, so that's impossible for you to do.
Because they, like, when you're attacking, you're hoarding space, and when you're defending,
and to what you said, I don't know if I don't even remember at this point, but I think you might even mention we're guilty of almost being too nice to our partners.
Yes.
So we don't pressure in
right.
and eliminate that space, because guess what? If we're eliminating all that space, we're no longer supporting our own weight. Our opponent is supporting the weight.
Yeah. So like, and that's funny that Paul said like, oh, they'll just put and you mentioned it a moment ago, like, oh, they'll just put their foot on your shoulder and just shove you away. And Paul said like, oh, they'll get some sort of like a lazy, or like a half like lasso in, right? I realized a shallow lasso. I realized I'm like, I literally do that all the time.
Yeah, you've done that to me.
Yeah, I do. It's sort of, and that's why Paul recommends that I start trying to play with the Lebo guard a little bit more, is because that lends itself perfectly to people not pressure passing properly, right? So like that's the idea of jiu-jitsu, and that's what's awesome, right? Like, because now, and I've been actually probably in the past month and a half, I've been making a conscious effort to work on that Lebo guard.
Well, that makes sense. So
because I'm so good at regaining that.
If you can't reach the shoulder with your foot, go to their bicep with your foot
to create the space, right?
And
because
then grab the cuff, and now you've got a Lebo guard.
So now you have Lebo guard. So like Paul recommended that to me 6 months ago, and I was like, that fucking gimmicky bullshit, right? And like literally now that I've been experimenting with,
now that you're a black belt,
I know. I started as a brown belt. Probably about 2-3 weeks ago. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take that to heart, and I'm going to play with it more. It's because he saw the concepts that I'm good at, and he's like, you should apply it to this sort of thing to see what you can play with, right? So like, I'm going to make it now as a black belt because I'm Shodan, or whatever the case is, right? Like, I have a little more freedom to try to come up with a little bit more of my own stuff and try to play with it, right? And I'm going to try to honor Lebo.
And give back to jiu-jitsu. Contribute. What's your contribution to jiu-jitsu?
The VU guard? That would just be butt scooting all the time. But that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu, right? Like when you start understanding these minor little like nuances of how to apply certain concepts, like that's where I think the creativity ends. Or begins really, and you can really create your own jiu-jitsu that's beyond the regular jiu-jitsu.
I mean, my big thing is I'm finding that I like playing De La Riva, but I do way better with people that pressure into me than people that circle. When people circle, I'll actually let my feet get too far away from my body, and they actually pass me. If a guy puts all their weight on me...
It's interesting that you even understand that, because I'm not sure most people even recognize why that's happening.
Well, no, I go with certain people, and there's certain people that pass my guard a lot quicker than other people.
Right.
And I'm realizing that. So now my big thing this week is... I don't know if it's butterfly, I don't know if it's shin on shin, I don't know if it's just coming up for a single, but sitting up.
Yes.
Being more proactive to sit up. And potentially give up a leaping guillotine. I'm always worried about people grabbing my neck because I have a very chokeable neck. I don't have like a.
I've
very
never actually measured your neck to throat.
I know, but I feel like my neck is very chokeable, so I don't want to. I don't want to give my neck up, but I don't want to keep falling back.
But from an MMA perspective, though, like because jiu-jitsu is all about fighting at the end of the day, I think you need to protect your neck. So there's something to that falling back, right?
Yeah.
And going to like a technical.
I mean, I think I can sit up and still protect my neck in most cases. And if a guy goes for it,
sitting up and attacking is the key.
And I think a lot of it's just sitting up and going for singles because I don't have a shin on shin. I know shin on shin. I know shin on. I don't know shin on shin, but I'm comfortable with shin on shin. This is not shin on shin.
BJJ Scout breakdown of Michelle Nicolini.
Michelle Nicolini?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really good. It's like a 2-part series of shin on shin with Spider.
Okay.
Ooh. I don't do a lot of shin on shin because I'm an outside control person, not an inside control person. You would do well with shin on shin because it's all predicated on like sweeping that way.
Yeah, and I'm at this point in time in my journey, I'm probably most comfortable in single leg X.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's so cool of you. Shout out to Cole.
No, I'm probably the most comfortable there, and I can go to X and other stuff. But I do like De La Riva. It's funny. I'll pat myself on the back. I remember a year ago, I fucking hated De La Riva. I was thinking, how does anyone hold guard? Like, how does anyone maintain their guard in De La Riva.
Right. Because you're like, oh, I'm like,
I was thinking
they're half past your body already.
They're half past my body, and I was used to. My concept of guard a year ago was closed guard, where you can hold a person.
Yes.
De La Riva, you can't hold a person. You have to constantly.
Yeah, it's a very active guard.
It's a very active guard. Yeah. You're working. Yeah. Now, what I'm realizing is you're actually working less than the person on top.
Yeah, because you're constantly off balancing.
So there's an advantage, but you can't just neutralize. That's why I like single leg X, because I can actually stall. And like any guard where I can stall, I like, because I think you're controlling the person. When I did my leg lock class, how about that? I emphasized overhooking, when you go into honey hole, overhooking the secondary leg, as Danaher would say.
Because 90% of the resistance comes from the secondary leg, you might say.
But if you hold that, like, a person's really hard pressed to get out of that.
Yeah, because your body weight's on top of the attack leg, and then
I like positions of control where I can gather my thoughts. De La Riva doesn't let you do that.
No. Yeah.
De La Riva is you have to constantly be doing that. But I'm actually, once I learned, and Paul did a great section on it, about De La Riva maintenance and open guard maintenance, where when they do this action and reaction, I love De La Riva. The thing is De La Riva works when the person comes into my guard. If the person stays too far away, now suddenly I want to go into De La Riva, but I'm stretching my legs away from my body, and then they leg drag, or they Toriana me, and I'm like, fuck my life, and I'm turtling, and then they take my back, and we're off to the races. So that's my new thing, is I'm going to try sitting up, some butterfly. So I kind of would like to learn some butterfly now.
Can we pause real quick? I got to pee.
Yeah. And we're back from the bathroom break.
Yeah, that was 24 ounces. Well let go.
Okay.
I mean, it was literally 24 ounces. So you're gonna sit up more? That's good.
Yeah, and during your bathroom break, I was actually asking Paul, and my first idea, he said, "Well, someone's passing low and strong, like you said," because I was asking about.
Yeah, you can't sit up from there, right? Like,
yeah. Bottom line is, I'm probably getting. The mistakes I'm making are happening one or two steps before that situation.
That's like the
one
whole
of those things.
Is that the whole? I mean, not to quote Matt Thornton too much, but like he's like, I've got
Did
a
you
magic
say Macklemore?
Matt Thornton.
Oh, Matt Thornton. I heard Macklemore. Like, to quote Macklemore,
I actually don't even know Macklemore songs, the lyrics of them. But Matt Thornton talks about like his magic 8-ball of Jiu-Jitsu, where like basically all of like the little answers are better hip movement. He's like, really? Like I'm not finishing my triangle. If you shake the magic 8-ball, what's the answer? Better hip movement. I'm getting my guard pass a lot. Like shake the 8-ball, it's probably magic hip or better hip movement. So probably you're getting your hips locked down early, right? Because to even get your leg stapled to the mat, right? Like that means you're letting him control your hips early on. Because at that point he's technically on a 5-point guard pass. He's at step 3. Right, so you're defending late, not even early.
Oh yeah, this is all late, and that's where I think I'm okay with De La Riva if I can establish stuff. But once guys are backing off, I can't just be fishing.
Yes,
for entries.
You need to be creating entries.
Yeah, I need to sit up and essentially make good contact.
Right.
And that's where I'm not. I'm letting them make contact with me.
Kazushi,
get that Kazushi going, and try and get that. Maybe I'm going to do the shoulder crunch.
Ooh, Sumagaeshi.
Yeah, Sumagaeshi. Everyone's doing that. I watched a Galval video on that last night. I really liked it, actually.
The shoulder crunch or just the...
He called it the shoulder crunch, but it's the same thing. But it looked like a butterfly sweep with that.
It's a butterfly sweep.
But I like that position appears extremely strong, and it doesn't appear to be a strength-based move. Just like when we're in close guard. Yeah, I think of close guard when...
You think guard.
You do when you're in close guard... And we talk about getting into, it's not an overhook per se, because you actually don't want to fish your arm all the way through, but you're essentially you're under your own thigh.
You're under your own thigh?
So it's a way to overhook without actually fully overhooking the guy's arm. So think about the punch block series.
The what? Oh, I
punch
see.
block
Yeah,
series
okay,
we
I see.
have in
I
our
know what you're talking about.
basically old school.
It's at the
Gracie
beginning
Jiu-Jitsu.
of like the.
But
when
what
you're-
you end up doing is
I think Sanjay calls it the side guard or something like that.
you're on your side. You're actually under your. You're under your own thigh.
Yeah.
And
Again, we're just continuing.
and you've got basically kind of a gable grip over your shoulder,
I
and
know
it's
what you're
locked
talking
in
about.
place.
Okay.
So
Is
what
this
it
like a new podcast? Or is
No, it's just continuation,
thing.
man.
We had a bathroom break.
Intermission, bro.
digital, man? We can pause.
Yeah, there's no wasted tape here.
And we're actually talking about jiu-jitsu. I've always wanted to have a podcast where we talk about jiu-jitsu technique, and we've never talked about technique. We've always talked about
there's
the theories
something
around
to
it.
be that requires like a visual part of it.
I know
But
everyone's listening, and I'm moving my hands around, and people are listening in their cars driving from.
But that's a failure on your part because you're not describing it properly.
Well, if we had a good vocabulary for all the different positions, then they
I
would
think you
understand.
could, though, right?
Oh, shut the fuck up! Shut the front door, bro! Shut the front door.
We're already explicit tag, so it's keep going.
So I like these shoulder lock concepts. It seems cool. It seems very viable, and it seems something that would probably be useful for me because I like. I don't know. I like leverage. I like. It's nice finding moves that are technique based, that are leverage based, that a smaller. Because my problem is with guys that are heavier than me. Most of the guys in the gym that I have trouble with are bigger than me.
And that's where so to go back to Brian McKenzie, remember on Drunken Ramblings Volume 9, I think it was. Like he's trying to get all like philosophical, right? And none of us were having it. And because it was something that he and I were discussing.
What are you saying? Like, what's the best?
What's the most powerful sweep, right? Is that, I mean, like, so now Danaher's talked about it. I know he downloaded the fucking
Sumagashi or whatever.
Sumagashi, which is just a butterfly, like, elevator sweep, right? Can it be argued that, and so I was experimenting with today because, like, I think Steve Wynn actually pointed out to me, he's like, I hate your left foot butterfly because it's so, like, invasive. Like it's always there, right?
I felt like you guys were having a conversation. Like I watched you guys roll. I was like, Victor, look at these guys roll. Like they're like having a conversation about philosophy right now.
Yeah, well,
like the moves were happening very slowly, and there's a lot of pausing and
just like
breakdown.
Yeah. But
meanwhile, everyone else was beating the fuck out of each other, and I was. So again, this is not even a white belt thing. It seems like everyone's got something. I don't know what's sprinkled in the water, but everyone's going fucking hard.
I think it's just like
Carl, you were going with AJ and fucking Muay Thai rules. Like you guys were standing up with Muay Thai cinches. What the fuck?
I think it was close to promotions. Right, we're a week out at this point. And
we're after promotion. This is the wind down. This is the wind down.
Everybody's gonna prove their stripes. They're like, I'm gonna defend these stripes and defend my new belt and all that bullshit, right? So like that's the thing. But like, so I was
watching so many people get enraged on the mats.
Oh really?
It was ridiculous.
Like like Jamie and I usually like super chill roll. Like Jamie was like.
Jamie's a low-key schizo. I'm calling you out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like,
and he complains.
The amount of times I've been kicked in the head by him.
He complains about other schizos, but you're a low-key schizo.
Oh,
I'm calling you out right now.
Like,
that's why Chihuahua. I love Chihuahua, and I want him to come back and tap your ass out again because that was the best thing.
It's like so like there's like the VU look of apathy when it comes to rolling, like just my utter boredom. Like Jamie is directly responsible for like my VU look of disdain, of like him and Victor. I can picture it now. Me and like. Viet is doing his fucking slow ass like super mega pressure.
I've never rolled with Viet.
Oh, dude, like so like there's something to that rock climber.
And Viet is a purple belt when he left.
He's a purple belt, yeah. I mean, realistically, brown belt. Super strong isometric strength. Grips are incredible. She's a rock climber. There's that carryover, right? And like me and him are doing our fucking crazy slow ass Vietnamese roll, and like Victor Guzman. Who's got another throwback, right? And Victor Guzman and fucking Jamie are both defending their own honor for whatever reason it is, and they're fucking going bananas like they're little tiny Latino like whirlwind of shit, and they're fucking kicking us in the head. And I just look at them like, what the fuck, guys? Like, just chill out. And so, yeah, Jamie's got that little bit in him.
Dude.
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
What was that?
When somebody
what was that guy's name that went really hard? Hang on, Victor. Who was that guy's name that went really hard with JB the one time?
With JB? Or Jamie.
Wipeout. Hispanic. Carlos.
Carlos who?
Remember, it was his name Carlos, right? Carlos. So I don't
With
know how
JB?
I don't know how this is gonna come on audio. So this is I'm like my first or second week at the gym. I'm stretching. Okay, Muay Thai. They're sparring.
Oh my god.
Okay, Carlos is a short, very energetic Hispanic dude. Okay. When I first rolled with him, he managed to within 2 seconds kick me really hard in the leg. Like he is. Comedically
in
schizo.
jiu-jitsu?
Comedically schizo. Like he Granby rolled like right into my face somehow. Like he is comically schizo. And he's a good dude.
Is he still here?
No, he's not. I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him.
Thanks, JB.
So he goes with JB, and they're just sparring, and he's fucking going apeshit with JB. And again, if everyone knows JB, then you know who I'm talking about. If you don't know who JB is a badass.
Yeah, he's
6'4". He's done a lot of Muay Thai. He's had professional fights.
Incredible grappler. Yeah. He's the
real deal.
Like legit.
He should be a black belt. He's a 4-stripe brown belt. He probably just needs to get back to Washington and get promoted by his sensei.
From Beta Academy.
Yeah. Anyway,
where I'd like to train.
So Carlos is outweighed by at least 40 or 50 pounds and is giving up 8 inches, to JB. And he's just going fucking bananas. And JB...
This has got to be on video.
JB is like... In his mind, he must be thinking like, all right, that's it. So then he throws a couple stiff jabs and starts walking Carlos down.
Oh, my God.
Carlos is... And I don't even... he got tagged a few times. And Carlos is like, that's right, B. Come on, let's just throw down, man. He starts banging his butt.
Oh, my God. He's like...
So then...
he's like the last 10 seconds of a UFC fight.
JB begins to walk him down the entire mat and off the mat with a flurry. Carlos's mouthpiece goes flying out of his mouth. JB does not stop. So I've watched from one end of the mat all the way to the other, and he gets the fucking shit kicked and punched out of him.
I bet you he loved every minute.
Oh, he loved every fucking minute.
It
was fucking hilarious. That was my second week. I was like, damn, bro. So I don't know what I forget where the context of where we're coming from that, but that was one of my earliest memories here at the academy of people going fucking bananas. Yeah, I haven't seen that guy Carlos. I think he was working at Taco Bell or something at the time. Or
oh man,
he's a nice guy. But yeah, that whole class, so like Viet and stuff, like those guys, Victor Guzman. They were all on their way out as I was on my way in.
Oh man, I wish you would like Viet is like sort of like everybody's spirit animal. Like he's just got this he's got this insane ability
to, the podcast.
To like connect with everybody in some form or another, right? Like I think he might be responsible for me like doing that like pre-jiu-jitsu workout for a while. Well, I was.
He's responsible for the kettlebells?
No. Pavel is responsible for the kettlebells, who was actually just recently on the Joe Rogan podcast. I don't know if you heard.
Really?
Yeah, Pavel. So it's interesting. I want to talk about it a little bit next time we're on. But I spent 4 hours with Steve Maxwell.
Yeah.
The other day, that was super cool. Kind of a weird sort of roundabout hero of mine, I guess, and I'm feeling it a lot more now. I'm curious as to your training modalities when it comes to things off the mat, when it comes to weightlifting and strength and conditioning. Because I think I'm 37. I've been lifting weights since I was 15. That's a lot of years of just experimenting with a lot of things. Steve Maxwell is a big part of that, especially when it comes to kettlebells. He
swears off them now.
He swore off them. It broke my heart. So he's into time static contractions, which is if you are into that, it's old school isometrics.
So pushing your fists into one another, pushing.
I mean,
your
a little bit more involved than that, okay. But yeah, moving, trying to contract against an immovable object, essentially. So I'm curious as to your ideas of strength and conditioning, because like I think right now we're not at quite a renaissance of strength and conditioning, but I think there's a lot of information out there.
Oh, I think in the last 5 years we've learned a lot, and we're realizing that traditional training methods were leading to, at the very least, a bunch of injured athletes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
A lot of non-contact injuries. You know, I think you look at the NFL. I think the NFL is slowly evolving a little bit. You have all the plethora of non-contact ACL injuries that are happening, or were happening in the past.
Is it because and that's the thing, right? Like, you know, I remember watching a seminar from Mike Boyle, who's a strength and conditioning coach up in Boston. And his rule number one for all people who are interested in becoming strength and conditioning coaches is rule number one should be similar to the Hippocratic Oath of do no harm. Like training injuries should never occur in the training room.
Well, I think we redline way too much. I think it goes to what we've seen with what I was talking about at the very beginning, which is we're beating the fuck out of each other's in free sparring. And going too hard, and even if you're going 2 or 3 times a week, I don't think is sustainable. But especially for the people that are training more regularly, to me, you're developing a skill. Weightlifting, I don't know the science behind it, so I don't want to get too much into that part of it. But certainly from an injury point of view, if you're having to hold back because of injury or soreness, that's a problem. So I think the big thing is, we are too aggressive in trying to get gains, so we look for too big of a delta in terms of our gains by going for too much overload in our workouts.
But there probably is like
more gradual deltas.
It's like a risk and reward though, right? Like you probably in the short term will see a lot of benefit from training that hard. Obviously,
but you're increasing your risk of injury because what are you doing? You're micro tearing your muscles.
Or as Steve and Drew Bay put it, shout out to Drew Bay. I'm his new little jiu-jitsu experiment. He's originally a super slow advocate, and now has converted to time static contractions. I actually just purchased his book. And he and I are kind of like in correspondence now. I'm gonna try, coming the new year. I've found myself getting caught up more with dad duties. The idea behind like super slow or high intensity training is like it should be very concise, which allows you more time to focus on your skill development in whatever endeavor you're looking for. So that's something I'm looking forward to trying to do.
So you have some New Year's resolutions.
I do. What's funny is like for the longest year, I've always been anti that guy. I think I was always afforded the luxury of like, I had all the resources in the world, time being the most evident. That's at a premium now, so I have to be more like budgetary about what I choose to do and when. And despite my efforts over the past 3 years, I've tried to keep up with jiu-jitsu because that's obviously the most passionate thing I'm about right now. The one thing I've cut is actually strength and conditioning. I try to get a couple deadlift workouts in a week, maybe twice. I like 4. I felt the strongest and best conditioned at 4, but I've let it down to like 2, probably more than 1. So I'm going to try to experiment with a super slow /hit. So with the blessing of Steve Maxwell, he said, man, turn the volume down, lay off the kettlebells. I'm going to see what's going to happen with that.
Wow. Well, I definitely have noticed for the first time a slight improvement in my rolls because I think I've been lifting a little bit, and that just having that little, that initial plateau, that initial burst you get from lifting. If you haven't lifted for a while, and then you lift, Did you do a massive, like consciously a deload? I did deload this week.
Okay.
This week I needed to deload, so I was just kind of going through the motions because I needed to rest. But I definitely noticed it's just the little workouts that I've done strength-wise, which has been really more strategic than anything, although I do...
Is it your Nick Paul...
Kind of that Nick Paul workout? Stuff. Yeah, it's pretty much that. Has just helped with just how I feel with rolls, especially with the bigger guys.
I mean, for
being able
injury
to establish-
prevention above all, right?
Injury
Or
prevention to
the-
me comes from the specific workouts I do for specific body parts, along with my yoga / stretching routine. That to me is the prevention.
the prehab. You
Yeah.
might say.
So it definitely helps. I still believe that if I went harder with that, it would probably be detrimental to my jiu-jitsu because my body would be too broken down from working out hard. But I do think being a little stronger will go a long way with other stuff. But I mean, hey man, like I said at the beginning, Gordon Ryan couldn't pass Mikey's guard.
And Mikey's 100 pounds lighter than him, right? Like,
yeah.
so there's something to that. I mean, he's just a little egg
So
too.
what do you? Because I'm going to be skiing next weekend, so I don't know when we're gonna. We might record on Tuesday.
Who knows?
We'll get times in to record. But what are you looking forward to going into 2020?
2020.
Jiu-jitsu wise.
Jiu-jitsu wise. I am looking to improve my top game.
Okay.
There are two things that I'm looking to do because like everybody sort of knows me as the butt scooter, right? Like, you know, Paul was like cracking jokes to the children's class about like the forward vertical shrimp is like the Chris Vu. Like, which
You're famous. That's good.
yeah, or infamous. So I'm going to work on my top game. I'm going to implement a little bit more. My passing style is very sort of like old school, off the knees, pressure based. I'm going to try to investigate the curriculum of SBG a little bit more, where it's a little bit more gravity based, and I'll expand upon that as I play with it. And I'm going to work my butterfly sweep more I'm going to try to chain my butterfly sweep to Libo guard a little bit more because I think I have a good opportunity over there. Those are my goals for 2020 and to improve my strength and conditioning to get back to my solid 175, not my jiggly 185. There's nothing wrong with dad bod. It's just I feel I just remember back to the feeling of when I was the quickest and strongest with bests, like my perfect balance of strength, endurance, and everything. So those are my sort of like 3 training goals for 2020.
And you're still going to be teaching Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 a.m.?
Oh, so beyond like the logistic part of it, administrative, Tuesday, Thursday, 6 a.m. That's still the goal. I mean, it is what it is. I'm sort of co-teaching with Kali, you know, new fellow black belt as well.
And
Tommy, welcome back, Tommy. That was super cool. You know, like I'm sort of like a detail freak. Tommy trumps me in every way when it comes to details.
In theory, the morning classes could be the classes where you get the most black belts consistently.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to train here, come at 6 a.m. and you'll have 3 black belts.
You'll
on the
have
mat.
3 black belts of vastly different strengths. So
Correct.
like it's a good opportunity. And still my Tuesday evening for Tuesday jiu-jitsu and Saturday mornings where I'll, you know, teach morning class every other week, you know, when Bobby's not here. So those are the goals still. What are yours? What are you looking forward to doing? Come on, let's lay some BJJ Globetrotter Noah millennial stuff on me.
I think I've been in a pretty good zone. Just stay motivated with stuff. I've been training a lot, and physically I've been able to keep that workload. So
Okay.
I can't recall in the last 3 weeks a time where I've taken a day off. Like I've been training almost every day now.
You're porradaing so much.
I've been going every day, and I think
building a rest day, man.
the rest days just come with holidays and all that other stuff.
Don't allow it to be happenstance, though.
I
man.
guess.
Follow the Dan John model of your workout on Sunday is to meal prep.
Okay.
You know, make
but
it.
Sunday morning is such a good class.
It is.
That's
a good
the
class.
thing.
So
It's like all these
find your
days are
day.
good classes. That's the thing. So maybe it'll be just a random like Wednesday.
Wednesday is your, you know, build it in like that. Your rest is your workout that day. Maybe just come and take notes, right?
Yeah. So I've been
help build.
I've
your
been very
teaching.
blessed that I've been able to physically handle the workload of training and handling going with people that might not want to just flow on a particular day if I'm not feeling it, So that's I've been lucky that way. And I'm also lucky that I have certain training partners that present unique problems that I have yet to solve. So I get to roll with those guys and gals and figure out how to kind of defeat those scenarios. I'm not gonna, as much as it would be nice to just go into like I want to get a belt by a certain time. That's outside my control. I just want to keep improving. I think I've done a fair amount in 2 years. It'd be pretty cool to see where I am 2 years from now. So that's really, I mean, the good thing is when I'm rolling, I'm continuing to face new obstacles and I'm getting funneled into areas. So now I can work on those things. So I've been very lucky. I don't know.
Getting funneled into or funneling or both?
I don't know. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's my opponents. I don't know if it's both. I haven't figured that part out, but I've been very lucky that it seems like my rolls tend to go a certain way all the way through. Like I've said this before, when I was a white belt, I was always in side control, and then I got to ask, okay, how do I get out of side control? So then I got a one side control, and I got put into another situation. How do I get out of that? So I was able to ask questions about these scenarios I was getting myself into. Now, when I'm going with upper belts and higher level people, I still experience that to a degree, so I get to work on those areas. And then with people of equal skill or lesser skill, I'm getting to expand my offensive options. I've been really enjoying being on people's backs and working that
King's
stuff.
Game.
Yeah, just working, getting on people's backs, getting better at grips, understanding that in gi you've got lapels and you actually want. That's the thing. I don't want to be a guy that grapples in the gi. But it's nice to have techniques that translate between no gi and gi. But there's no doubt that when I go with Paul, he does not grapple in the gi. And when he takes my back, he's immediately on my lapels. And it does eliminate things that if he was attacking my neck, I actually have more wiggle room. I find.
In a gi or without a gi?
If we're in a no gi setting, I would say I have more wiggle room, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, getting those grips on in back mount.
It's
open up so much. It's fucking ridiculous. And now suddenly you roll into chokes and it's weird. So just trying to learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can, and assimilating it. Have fun. Trust the process. Just
believing in the process is a big thing. I think I don't know if that's necessarily a new thing philosophically to many things, or whether I've just finally accepted that I just need to trust in the process and overall it pays off. But like I remember listening to a podcast that Faraz Zahabi did, and he talked about like they worry so much about like the ends and not so much the like the idea of like weight loss, right? Like people come in, they join jiu-jitsu and they want to like, I want to lose weight. And they don't believe in the process, like because they always have just that in mind and they're not losing the weight versus focusing on like the actual training, right? Because that's what's going to make you lose the weight at the end of the day. And trusting that process, I think, is a big thing that most people tend to just overlook overall or underestimate just
and
the
also
process.
Enjoying the process. Like I want to get better as quickly as I can, but I've had moments where I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, like, okay, let's say suddenly I get a black belt. Am I going to be miserable after that? Am I, you know what I mean?
No.
Like, no, but you know what I'm saying? Like, let's say I did everything in my power to get my black belt as quickly as I could.
Sure.
And I'm like, is life over at that point? You know what I mean? It's like, and this kind of goes into me and my personality, and I'm pretty like, fucking brews have hit me at this point, so I'm getting very philosophical. But what's great about jiu-jitsu for me in a way is it's a I want to get better at jiu-jitsu, and it's a day-to-day goal that I can go, when I go to sleep at night, I can be thinking about how do I get better at jiu-jitsu.
Right.
If I don't
It's
have that, I
never
start
gonna-
thinking about shit
Yeah.
that's not as positive.
It's never gonna end, though,
You know?
right? Like, because like my buddy Alan, who was on recently, and we were discussing the other day, like, and he was comparing it to music, right? Like, he was having a conversation comparing martial arts training to music, and he and I were sort of like speaking offhand the idea of like artistry versus technique, and like he's like, you know, this guy wants to be the black belt in music. And I asked him, like, all right, so like, first off, what's the objective measure in music? I don't know, like how well you perform a song or whatever the case is, right? The objective measure in jiu-jitsu is, can you tap a person ultimately, right? Can you control a person and tap them, right? And there are many sort of like mini objective measures within the overall meta of that. Whereas like, what is it in music? And it's too much left to the interpretation, because maybe that leans a little bit more on art and not true things, not objective things. And he had said, you know, that guy's objective measures how fast he can play a song, which I'm like, I'm not really sure that makes you a better musician, does it? Because if you can play a song super fast and it's technical, like, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a good musician. To me, at least, that means you suck as a musician. Because isn't a big part of music creating enjoyable things that evoke emotion?
Well, you're talking about composing to a degree, I think, as well. Right?
Isn't composing a part of being
Oh,
a musician?
absolutely.
Right?
I just, the thing...
And it's a natural part of jiu-jitsu
the thing
to
about
compose.
The thing about jiu-jitsu, and it's funny because we talk about the belts, and we are kind of the opinion that the belts don't matter. Ish.
And Paul even touched
But
about this.
Paul
on
said
that,
that
right? Like,
the belts do matter.
they do matter, right?
Because
Like,
they-
it gives you something to work towards.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
and
you would
the
just
thing
be
is,
stagnant.
when you get a black belt, by rule, you get your stripes at that point by time put in.
Right, because you've already
Where it's
put in the
merit
time.
based up until black belt. To a
Interesting.
degree.
To a degree.
It's merit based. You could argue. You could at least convince yourself in your head as a student working your way to black belt that it's merit based. Once you have a black belt, you know it's not merit. Merit is in, as long as you're on the mats, then
And
you're
that's
going to
the thing
get your
is, like,
stripes.
I think, though,
You're gonna get your
the
degrees.
ideal is that by that point, after, let's say, 10 years, 15 in my case, you know, like, it's weeded out the people who are past the point of, I'm doing this for myself. You know, like, they understand the true value of martial arts and jiu-jitsu, and at that point, people really want to give back, right? Because, like, at that point, not that you've achieved everything you can in jiu-jitsu, but, like, you should be working to the best of your ability to further the art, not yourself.
But the thing is Paul now, using Paul as an example, just because it's someone we know, is a black belt of a black belt.
Right.
Meaning, let me, because that came out bad. He got his black belt. He's been a black belt longer than he was a colored belt or a white belt. So his journey from white to black is less than his journey from black to right now.
Okay.
He's been a black belt
yes,
longer.
yes.
He has continued to climb. He didn't reach the top of a mountain. He's continuing to climb.
Oh, yeah, and he's,
the
yeah,
mountain.
absolutely.
And
He's still
a far
developing
better
and-
grappler
yeah.
and coach than he was when he first got his black belt. So for me, looking at things, you're always going to have to get better at stuff. And it's just, it's weird. I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but that fucking black belt does have some, I'm a black belt. That's why fucking karate people, I'm a black belt in karate.
sounds
you know?
cool, man.
It sounds fucking cool. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, yeah, but I guess my point is you were saying it becomes more when you're a black belt because now you're about giving back. I would argue that, sure, Paul's giving back, but he's also grown leaps and bounds as a grappler. And if you were to throw him into a grappling tournament, he would do far better now than he would when he first got his black belt.
True.
It's not that he suddenly, he didn't get a black belt and suddenly said, it's not about me anymore.
No. But he had the maturity emotionally at that point to also understand that by him devoting his energies to furthering the art, it's only furthering himself, right? Like it's there. That's where that self-perfection comes in, right? Like, isn't that a part of it too? Like, shouldn't we all seek to, because they're not independent of one another, right? Like they're interdependent. Like for him to become a better martial artist, he should be trying to further the art and to develop new things, which only in turn contribute to him and his students. So, I mean, I know it's a cyclical answer, or cyclical argument, but like, that's the
motivations are changed, but the results don't necessarily.
Right. Yeah. Like he is a better grappler.
So you're making it sound like once you hit black belt, you've now transcended like Buddha.
Yeah. I mean, like you've written it. Yeah. No, but it's cool. I mean, like that's something I have to kind of kick around the idea of. Like, am all this time I've been talking about just how much I love jiu-jitsu, have I been selfish up until 1 week ago today? You know, like we just kind of had a brief discussion.
I mean, I think selfishness is not bad. People.
Wow, calm down there, Ayn Rand. Jesus. Are there virtues of selfishness there?
Atlas Shrugged, baby.
Like,
I've never read Atlas Shrugged. So, no, I think egoism or being an egoist is not in and of itself a negative thing. I think it's just if these behaviors are going to be harmful to your neighbor, then that's bad.
Yeah, agreed. Okay.
But I think the person that is very generous is not doing it because they're selfless per se. They're doing it because at some level,
because you would be homeless, right? Like
they enjoy giving.
Yeah.
Like they get off at some level on being generous. So they're actually being self-serving. That's what I think really is going on. I don't think Mother Teresa was doing all the stuff she did because she was sacrificing her happiness. She was actually getting true happiness from being generous.
And isn't that like the ideal of human nature? Like that's what we should all seek to do, right?
Exactly.
Right, like
100%.
I mean, ultimately we should all seek to be happy.
Correct.
But like not at the expense of others, right? Like
correct. It's sad that there could be people that get happy at the expense of other people's happiness, health, financial well-being, whatever.
Is that also a scarcity versus like prosperity mindset?
I don't know. I feel like John should be in on this conversation.
You know,
where are you, Rumsey?
Is that a big part of it too, right? Like the scarcity versus like because you know, like because it's also sort of interdependent on the approach and philosophy of life of the person, of your training partners, just from a sort of like micro standpoint. Like you're beating people, but like they have to approach the mindset of like they're learning or whatever the case is, or they're beating you and you have to approach it from the mindset of well, I'm learning from each one. But I actually, I have to get going in a minute, but yeah.
So, final question to ponder as we ramble
as
out,
we drift.
Because people, if you've stuck with us this long, God bless you guys. You guys are amazing, and gals.
Thank
you. Do you think jiu-jitsu is quasi-religious?
Ooh, Brian McKenzie and I have discussed that quite a bit.
I put the quasi just to be safe.
Like, we talk about like cults and stuff, and like I know there are very many Eastern martial arts who have been accused of, and not even accused of, but actually sort of like found guilty of being cults, right? We can discuss that on the next one.
Yeah, I would like to know how do you establish?
I did not establish.
You are officially a cult, ladies and gentlemen.
No, but I mean, like there are certain like methods of identifying a cult, and of course, like it's sort of like
a messiah,
astrology,
figure.
Yeah,
hero worship.
Are
your
we
favorite
getting
word?
there? I mean, like, and that's the thing, right? So we'll need to discuss that next time. But our
Oh, that's right. We're gonna put a picture of you and a black belt on that wall, and then we can maybe bow to it or something.
Yeah, and actually, every time I expect to kneel, like sort of like when you're getting in, like when you're, what do they do? It's been a while since I've been a Catholic, but like before you get into the pew, you like kneel.
That doesn't mean you're a worse Catholic than the Pope. He's just
been doing it longer, bro. Like, hey, man, he's just a black belt. I mean, he's like 9 degrees in. I'm like, I've got my first, right? I was confirmed. So you're like you kneel before you get into the pew. Yeah, I guess that's weird. Like that's gonna be really bizarre to me, to be honest.
What's your Christmas schedule like? Because next weekend I will be skiing, going on a ski trip, so I will be unable to record. On Saturday.
I will be of my regular schedule aside from Christmas Day.
Okay.
So, I mean, hell, I'll sit here and I'll record on my phone. I've got my new LG G8X. Maybe it's got good phone recording abilities. Or, you know what I've thought about doing is like, as I'm sitting there just driving, just haphazardly
just
as
go
I do.
train a stream of consciousness.
Stream of consciousness, like I've seen a lot of folks do. But
so, how did it feel? Last question.
Yeah.
I promise, audience.
We're almost done here.
Yeah. Because we're probably 2 hours plus now at this
easily.
point. What did it feel like being next to Paul, bowing people in as a black belt, as opposed to facing Paul as a brown belt?
It's a little weird because of that. That as much as I try to decree hero worship, like he's quite a bit of a hero to me, right? Like ever since the moment I saw him put on MMA gloves, wearing his little weenie wrap rival blue shorts that he got in the WEF years ago, you know, like he's always been this like badass, cool. Like I strive to be that, you know, watching him literally on DVDs, in Pride,
with his frosted tips.
Yeah, yeah, he was so Backstreet. But like it was cool. Like it still is a bit weird to me, just because like I don't. Yeah, I mean, just my nature is like I don't feel as though I'm better than anybody else, right? Like I've literally just been doing it longer. To be facing them and expecting them to bow to me and like, and I you know, my thoughts on like moving out of the way on the mats and that sort of shit while you're grappling. Like I was grappling with Mark and he just sat there and stared at some blue belts today. I was like, we can move too. Like it's not that big of a deal, right? Like so that's like weird to me still. I mean, like I guess I've earned it in whatever way you want to say that. It's cool. It's a little surreal. I don't like facing the class, to be honest, because like whatever sort of weird idiosyncrasies I have.
You know, like a separate like black belt line on the side where you should.
Yeah,
you're in front of the brown belt.
You know, like I sit there and one of my things that I always tend to do, and I realized I was doing it today, is like whenever Paul says like, "Hey, everybody, you know, take a break," or whatever it is, like I generally don't get a drink in the class. I just go lean against the wall and just squat down and lean against the wall. Like I was doing that today while Paul was like,
I know that's why these beers hit me pretty well because I didn't drink any water. My water jug is still entirely full. Yeah.
But so like that's I realized like, and it took me a while to realize this too. Actually, thinking back to when I was a purple belt and an early level brown belt, if somebody said to me along the lines of like, you don't realize it, but people in a weird sense of the way like look up to you, you know. I had a pretty lengthy conversation with Adonis the other day about this, and he, you know, it's odd to me because like we're like the same age, and he kind of said something along the lines of like, I want to see you get your blue or your black belt, excuse me, because like, you know, like that's cool to me because of that sort of, you know, like I've been here along for your journey and that sort of thing. And like for people to sort of like not admire, but at least like acknowledge that sort of stuff is odd to me because like I don't acknowledge it myself. So like today I embraced it a little bit. We discussed that a little bit earlier, but you know, like I really believed in my jiu-jitsu a little bit more and I had a little bit of fun with it. So
yeah, I think this is something that we can go into a lot of deeper depths in a future podcast. But definitely, it was definitely cool seeing you up there.
Cool, thank you. And for that, and we'll close this out real quick. Shout out to Frankie Granera Jr., the VP of General Insulation Company, for actually listening to our first podcast and shooting me like a dissertation about our thoughts about that. It was awesome because I would love to meet you on the mats at some point too. I love jiu-jitsu. I believe in it. Shout out to Alan for listening to all of our podcasts.
Shout out to Stacy for becoming a new listener. Shout
out to John. Yeah, Sahibi, John Estrada, purple belt under Jason Patino, also a Paul Rodriguez black belt. Thank you for listening to our stuff. We'd love to have you all on the show too. Like that's the thing. Like it's BJJ and Brews is about the community that we develop in jiu-jitsu and the love we share for one another and sharing each other's stories. So
yeah, and I think a lot of times because everyone's busy and everyone has lives, a lot of times it's just me and Chris doing these conversations, which I enjoy. But definitely when you have people that you train with, and so in some cases people I've never trained with, but other people on to share their views, and they're not 10-time world IBJJF champions. They're people that are white belts, blue belts, purple belts, brown belts. It actually is a better representation of what anyone's going to experience day to day in a gym. And I think everyone's story is unique. I'm addicted to hearing everyone's stories. And I appreciate, we've been doing this for 11 episodes, man. And it started as kind of
20 is the magic number.
It started like it's kind of a chicken bet between the two of us. Like, well, we should record it. Well, okay, I'll bring my stuff in, and okay, we'll see. So it's been fun, and here's to having 10 more and 10 more after that. So we will sign off. Do you want to say anything stupid?
Well, I tend to do that a lot. But if we don't catch one before Christmas, Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays.
I think we'll get one in, but yeah, Merry Christmas.
I think so too.
Well, happy holidays.
Happy holidays. We gotta be. I mean, like, what's wrong with
happy
sharing?
Kwanzaa and Hanukkah too?
It's just happy holidays. Fair enough. I mean, like, what's
and Merry Christmas.
I wouldn't be offended if somebody wished me a happy Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or whatnot. So,
dude, we're in Florida. It's like the same. Like
exactly.
Up north, when I grew up in the Northeast, you put up your lights. It's like a big deal. It's kind of miserable. You know, you're looking forward. Down here, it's good weather.
Yeah,
we're in
like
Orlando.
we're literally wearing shorts and flip-flops
I know.
right now.
Life's good. All right, man. We will shut this down.
Hey, yo. See you tonight.